Yeah, his Thanksgiving vacation started a little early, and that's okay. See, Gatter, he's a great job with filming it here. Hey, guys, we haven't done a lot there together. Some soccer stuff, so it's good to see you.
I was just going to say that. I can't think of the last time off the top of my head that you and I, outside of, I'm a guest on your shows from time to time, and sometimes when I'm filling in during the day, you'll have your scheduled shot, your scheduled slot in there as a guest. But I can remember the last time that you and I hosted a show together, start to finish. It might have been all the way back to like the early St. Louis City.
It might have been, and I'm glad to be able to do this with you. For those of you who don't know, Nate, in addition to filling in here, he is the lead college football voice for Western One Sports. Does a lot of things. He's fantastic, and I'm glad we're able to talk a little bit. We're going to spend most of the day today going through the news of the day. And that's the Cardinals pulled off a trade, the first move made by Chaim Bloom in his era of Cardinals baseball. And interestingly enough, he pulls it off with his former team. Sonny Gray goes to the Boston Red Sox. Richard Fitz comes back, a guy who pitched a little bit in the big leagues this past year, had mixed results, and then Brandon Clark, who is going to comes in as top 10 prospect, ranked number 7 according to MLB Pipeline in the Cardinal organization. He'll hit 97, 98. He can touch 100 if you need him to. Strikes a bunch of guys. So interesting trade. I'll start with this for when you saw this move today. What's the initial reaction from you?
I think it's the thing. First of all, it's just one that had to happen, right? And probably it's a relatively short list of teams. I guess I don't know how short it was, but presumably it's not an endless list of teams that Sonny Gray would waive his no trade clause to go to. So, you have to get it done, and there's already going to be that kind of obstacle to overcome in finding the right partner that's going to be agreeable not just to the two teams, but also to Sonny Gray. The Cardinals get some real value out of it. They save, as it turns out, with a rework contract somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 million. The part that maybe stands out to me the most, and I mentioned this on with Dave Glover earlier this afternoon, is that the Cardinals, who are often criticized, I think often with good reason, for being unwilling to spend the kind of money that some of their competitors are these days, essentially spent $20 million here. Interesting too, we talked about at some length, I think, the last couple of months, maybe longer than that, on these airwaves about the fact that Chaim Bloom is coming into a situation where we don't have an accurate perception of which of these guys on the Cardinals roster, he's interested in, which he's not, right? This is the roster he is inheriting. He's had a limited role in building it over the last year, let's say. But outside of this most recent draft, he hasn't had much of a hand in the major or minor league rosters for the Cardinals. So we don't know how he evaluates these guys relative to John Mozeliak, relative to how Randy Flores evaluated them, any of those guys. He has a new perspective. That applies outside too. And so you mentioned making a deal with his former team. It's interesting that he dips into, goes over to the Red Sox in making this deal. The Red Sox didn't draft Fitz, and they would have drafted Clark after Chaim Bloom had already left Boston.
And Fitz was in the Verdugo trade, which was made by Breslow. So that's a great point by you that neither of these players they're getting were acquired by Chaim in Boston.
Right. But nonetheless, sort of, it'll be interesting to see where he targets players and along the lines of how he feels and how his perceptions are. Maybe it's more interesting as this offseason goes on. does he dip into any non-obvious trade candidates, right? We always expected Sonny Gray was likely
Mhm.
to go. We still expect Nolan Arenado overwhelmingly likely to go. If he dips into that next group of guys, where does he go? Is he more likely to go for Jordan Walker or Alec Burleson or Nolan Gorman? Is it somebody else that we're not even? Is it a Lars Nootbaar who has been talked about a little bit at times? Could he totally go off the wall and surprise us with a name that we haven't talked about at all? We're going to learn a lot in the next, or at least some in the next couple of months about how Chaim Bloom feels about the current Cardinals roster.
Yeah, I don't know what the unexpected group is though, because you just said, does he dip into that? I don't think they're going to trade Mason Wynn. And outside of that, like, I'm not convinced there's anybody else on the roster that I I don't think they would.
That's a fair point. There's really nobody
Right.
but Mason Wynn who would shock it.
Yeah, I guess Mike McGreevy would surprise me. They put a lot into his development. He's a young, controllable pitcher. To a certain extent, Matt Liberatore probably the same thing. But yeah, they trade Alec Burleson, if they trade Nolan Gorman, if they trade any of these, Jordan Walker probably not, because it'd be such a sell low situation. He's been one of the major players for the better part of the last 2 years. You're getting the upside on him is so much better than what you're going to get for him on that. So that would be surprise me. But if there is a team out there that see the underlying numbers in Walker and are convinced that they can turn him into that, so they make you an offer. I don't think there's anybody that would be really that surprising outside of the few I listed.
No, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. And we do have a little bit of a window. We talked about this in the middle of the summer when the draft happened. We do have a little bit of a window into what talent, especially what kind of minor league talent, to the extent that he's going to be acquiring young, unproven guys, Chaim Bloom is going to be targeting. Because we felt, especially with the pitchers, that there was a pretty clear line in terms of the kind of upside that he was chasing in the draft, and the kind of upside that he probably thought was somewhat lacking in the Cardinal system based on the kind of players that they had prioritized over the last half decade, let's say, of the Mosaic grade.
Upside's the key word there, because inside that Kevin and I have talked about a lot lately. Unfortunately, there's a lot of, I think, unhinged social media commentary just raising the perceived value of certain players. Brendan Donovan's your best trade piece. I don't think he's bringing a top 100 level prospect, and if it is, it's on the very, very low end of the top 100. There's only a handful of can't miss prospects out there. So for me, and why I like this trade today, and especially when it comes to the young lefty Brandon Clark, you have to bring in as many guys into the organization as possible that have high ceilings that they may or may not reach. And we're talking about high ceilings. I'm really talking for pitchers. I'm talking about swing and miss stuff. And this Clark kid, over his minor league career, 60 strikeouts in 38 innings, and he can touch 100 if you need him to. So he's got the ability to strike guys out. So if you're not going to bring in can't miss prospects, because teams don't trade away can't miss guys, that just doesn't happen in today's baseball. You have to collect as many guys that if they reach their potential, they've got the opportunity to be something special. And then you don't have to hit on all of them. If you just hit on half of them or hit on a handful of them, then that's going to be the start of being able to lift your major league roster and maybe elite players on.
To that point, obviously the ding on Clark is that he struggled with his command and then he has those high walk numbers. I don't know that Chaim Bloom really cares that much about how many guys he's walking in A-ball. If you didn't have those high walk numbers, if his control were impeccable, he wouldn't be available, right? Then we'd be talking about a guy who's a top 50, a top 20, a top 10 prospect in baseball, and he's not available to go and trade for. So you have to get the guys that you can get. And to that point, I think it's fair to say that, especially if he's trading for a guy at the stage of his career that Clark is, that Chaim Bloom's philosophy very, very clearly has been communicated as, we're thinking about how high is the upside, not how low is the downside. If there's a chance that this guy never becomes a major leaguer or gets to the major leagues and can't hit the broadside of a barn, we're willing to take on that risk and more if it means that there's a scenario where this guy develops into an all-star and we paid a relatively low price to acquire it.
It also helps because you bring in two guys. One of them, we just talked about Clark, he didn't pitch above single A this past year, but they've talked about wanting to have as much controllable big league pitching as possible. You bring in Richard Fitz, who has been in the big league, not a ton of experience in the big leagues, but he has pitched in the big leagues. He's got 15 appearances, 14. You would think can be earmarked for starting rotation this upcoming season. So they're really able to accomplish two things. They bring in the guy who's got the super high ceiling, he's going to reach it, and then they bring somebody who can help right away.
Yeah, and the upside to me of, I guess I should use that because we've already defined it in earlier in the segment, but the benefit of having a season like we anticipate the Cardinals having, where they're not spending every single day thinking, how can we get from here to the playoffs, where they're thinking more about development and more about evaluation, is you can afford to hand the ball to a guy like this 30 times and see how it goes, and see what version of him do you get in August and September after he gets 25, 30 major league starts under his belt. And I think there's a real intrigue in that. Now, it's maybe a little bit more for the sicko than for the casual fan, the type of person who wants to watch every game and make their own evaluations and see how that roster develops. What I'm excited about is that I think this is a step in getting more serious. It's going to feel to some people like a rerun of 2025. Like they're hearing a lot of this messaging about runway and about evaluation and about finding these right spots for this younger talent and building a way for the roster to fit together. It feels like they're getting real about it. It feels like now we're hopefully going to see Chaim Bloom take much more tangible steps in that direction. And if a teardown or a partial teardown is necessary in order to create the vacuum into which the Richard Fitzes of the world can get their opportunity to grow, then that's what it's going to take.
I want to jump off that a little bit more. It's a really interesting point by Nate Gatter. I'm Matt Pauley. We'll take a break, and we'll continue on in just a moment as we're going through all aspects of the Sonny Gray trade from today. We're back with more in just a moment. Rush Hour Sports on KMOX.
KMOX, celebrating 100 years. Presented by Purina, your pet, our passion. Now, KMOX Pioneer.
For nearly 4 decades, no one shaped KMOX more than Robert Hyland. When he took over as general manager, Hyland transformed KMOX into the nation's first major all-talk radio station with at your service.
I think it's been a vehicle, it's been a forum for people, and it's brought people close. That's what we're trying to do. Air the views so we can put them out on the table and then dissect them and talk about them among ourselves and also with the experts and so-called experts on natural service.
He built KMOX into the sports voice of St. Louis, securing partnerships with the Cardinals, Blues, Football Cardinals, and Mizzou, and turning the station into a national powerhouse. A tireless leader, Robert Hyland turned KMOX into what CBS founder William Paley called the jewel in the CBS crown. Robert Hyland, KMOX Pioneer. You're listening to Filter Radio. Guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take the most related questions and bring you a Black Friday on.
Hey, everybody. I understand we have on. Where are you?
Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal. And now, as a special Black Friday offer, you can get a free gutter inspection, plus up to 35% off. This is our best offer of the season. Unlock it now at leaffilter.com/deal. See representative for warranty details.
There is nothing like watching Thanksgiving football, but for football fans in Missouri, this year FanDuel is about to make it even better. With points giving, all FanDuel customers in Missouri get $1 in bonus bets for every point scored in the Chiefs-Cowboys game. So, for example, if the final score is 24-21, you'd get $45 in bonus bets. Doesn't matter if you've already signed up for FanDuel or if you've been waiting for the right moment to join. Just head to FanDuel.com/Missouri to get in on the action in Missouri. That's FanDuel.com/Missouri to score bonus bets for every point in the Chiefs-Cowboys game. Enjoy a football feast with points giving on FanDuel, coming soon to Missouri. 21 and over and present in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com.
Traffic from the michaelsflooringoutlet.com traffic center.
Well, we're bogged down both directions on 270 between Olive and Manchester, but southbound jam south of 364 down to that point. And then it's still slow southbound down through Doherty Ferry and 44 to Tesson Ferry. South 170 backs up Delmar to 64, westbound 64 Kings Highway headed out through Clayton Skinker, but it's slow all the way to Hanley. It's slow Clarkson to Topgolf 94 most of the way to Winghaven, and bumper to bumper 364 most of the way out to Highway 70. Southbound 141 got another crash. This time it's a Clayton Road, jammed from almost Ladue to Clayton. And then there's still heavy traffic coming down through Carmen, backed up Big Bend down into Valley Park. Westbound Manchester from almost the Sam's Club before you get to Barrett Station out to Henry. That's stop and go crawling. Westbound 44, we got a crash west of Laclede Station. It's jammed at River to Pear. Southbound 55, Arsenal down through Bates. North of Z, almost midway between M and Z down to McNutt. 255 still delays, both east and or north and southbound, exiting onto Route 3 southbound because of that crash near Quarry Road in Columbia, and westbound 44 delays between the bridges. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Sponsored by the Moolah Shrine Center Festival of Trees.
Hello, everyone. I want to invite you to the Moolah Festival of Trees. Come see over 40 of the best decorated trees you'll ever see. Adult tickets are only $2 and kids under 12 are free. November 22nd through the 29th at the Moolah Shrine Center.
This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
Rush Hour Sports rolls on right here on KMOX. Kevin Wheeler out this week. He's got the entire week off for the Thanksgiving holiday. We'll have a few different people in throughout the course of the week today. Very happy to be able to work with Nate Gatter. We're continuing to talk through the trade that the Cardinals announced earlier today. Sonny Gray goes to Boston. Richard Fitz, who's probably going to be in the big league rotation this upcoming season, comes back. And then Brandon Clark, who's a year or two away, did not pitch above the single-A level this past year. He comes back as well. He's been slotted in as number 7 on the Cardinals prospect list, according to MLB Pipeline. Nate, you said something interesting in our last segment, and in many ways, it almost retroactively feels like this past season of Cardinals baseball, they really didn't accomplish what they would have liked to accomplish from a runway standpoint and all that, because now they were clearly in a rebuild, but not fully in it. Now it feels like they're actually in it. And you kind of openly wonder, would they be a year further along had they done some of this stuff 1 year ago?
Matt, I've said this many times. I think as a fan, the most important thing is to feel like your team has a direction and has a clear one and is committed to it. I felt that the Cardinals acted like they had a direction this past year and didn't consistently take steps to actualize it. What's frustrating about that, and what's sort of a sign of it or evidence of it, is that I don't feel we know that much more about the Cardinals now than we did before the season started. There are relatively few players who I feel we learned a lot about during last season. What's the point of runway if we get to the end of the season, we're like, basically the same roster, pretty much the same information. And I'm not going to say that doesn't mean they didn't learn anything about anybody. You make some progress in any given year. But to your point, it's not like, all right, well, this feels like a 3-year rebuild and 1 year's down. This feels like a team that's still deciding if the rebuild's going to start, and if so, what it's going to look like and how long it's going to take and what is the runway, for lack of a better word, on that rebuild. And now today, the Sonny Gray trade is the first real declaration of kind of a flag plant of the rebuild starting, and it's going to happen for real. And we're going to see how the rest of the offseason goes in determining whether that's likely to be a 1 or 2 or 4 year type of process. I would assume they're not going to be comfortable saying openly they think it's going to be a 4-year deal. That's not the type of thing that happens.
Well, they still won't call it a rebuild, and that's fine. That's fine, but it is a rebuild.
I think what I'm saying is I'm so much less concerned with what they call it than I am with what they do.
Right.
And last year it felt like they were not going to use the word rebuild, but they were very comfortable saying this is a different season than we've had in the past. This is not a season where the end-all be-all is making the postseason. They were pretty comfortable and open about that, and then they didn't really do a whole lot to effectuate that position. And I think what we're already seeing is Chaim Bloom coming in and taking action toward the end game, and setting that direction and following it with more authority. And that's one of the things that probably is born out of the advantage he got from having a year to familiarize himself as much as possible with the organization at the major league level and at the minor league levels, and really have a time to make a plan and know what he wanted to do when he got in charge. There are probably times last season when he was sitting there itching a little bit, thinking I might handle this situation a bit differently if I had the big chair already. Now he does, and it hasn't taken him long to make a pretty significant move.
I think I agree with everything you just said. I think it is worth noting they did learn some things this past year. I think you learned something with Matthew Liberatore. That's probably the greatest example. We're going to take a guy who's been a reliever, who before the season got started, the most sure thing was he's going to help you the most out of the bullpen. And they said, that be darned, we're going to put him in the rotation and see how it goes. And that worked out well. I think we learned something about Alec Burleson, where now we can view him as somebody who he can be a key part of this team with what he was able to do during the year. Ivan Herrera was certainly trending in that direction, but giving him the opportunity that they gave him this year. But the two guys that we talked about over and over and over again going in this past year were Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker. And maybe we did learn about Walker that he's just not somebody that you can trust yet. But when it came to Gorman, he was never given the Matthew Liberatore treatment where you're just going to put him in a spot and leave him there. And now it almost feels like that could be what happens this year with Gorman, that you're going to go into the season and he's going to be the third baseman. And this is finally going to be the Gorman runway season, which should have been last year.
That's a good point, is that maybe my issue, and this is one of the reasons that I felt that a lot of the criticism directed toward Ollie Marmol was sort of misdirected. It wasn't unreasonable. It was just pointed in the wrong direction. Because what's he supposed to do, right? He's only got 9 spots on the lineup card every day. He can't put every guy that they want to give runway in the lineup every day. And the answer to me was that they just had too many redundancies on their roster last year. And I understand it's not as simple as press a button and get rid of that. But in retrospect, I wonder if John Mozeliak could have done a little more last offseason to try to clear out some of that roster clog and create a situation where Nolan Gorman could play every day or close to every day without taking at bats away from somebody that you really wanted to have in there, either because of wanting runway for that guy or because of just wanting to, try to be as competitive as possible, right? Obviously, they're not taking at bats away from Brendan Donovan to put Nolan Gorman in the lineup. That's not a reasonable request. The fact, maybe John Mozeliak would say, well, I had that Astros deal done and it all fell apart. And that's probably part of it.
No, absolutely part
because
of it.
Arenado moving to Houston when that trade was agreed would have helped the Cardinals considerably last year, I think, in terms of just opening up some of those at-bats and getting rid of some of that roster clog. And it's unfortunate, I think, for all parties that didn't happen. I imagine if Nolan Arenado had it to do over again, he would probably take that deal.
That's Nate Gatter. I'm Matt Pauley. You are locked into Rush Hour Sports. We're talking through the Sonny Gray trade. Back with more in a moment on KMOX.
Swapping out your tires? There's nothing like it. With eBay, you can find the feel you're looking for, from smooth highway rides to grip for rough terrain. Get all the tires you need at prices you'll love. eBay. Things people love.
At 5:30, the news is sponsored by Michael's Flooring Outlet, the flooring experts, michaelsflooringoutlet.com. Right now, we've got some clouds. It is 55 degrees downtown at the Arch. St. Louis rap legend Nelly was in North City today, personally helping families put food on the table for Thanksgiving.
We're here right now, North St. Louis at Wallbridge Elementary. We want to thank all of the staff and the whole community for opening their doors and helping us, just do a little something for people this Thanksgiving.
Dirk Brown caught up with him at Wallbridge Elementary, where volunteers handed out free turkeys and holiday food boxes today.
I'm Peter King. Most of this week's estimated 82 million travelers are expected to drive.
We're at 305 per gallon as a national average.
AAA spokesman Robert Sinclair Jr. calls $3 the pain threshold. That is, the point where people start considering alternatives to driving. But the Auto Club's Thanksgiving survey shows that is not expected to be a problem this year.
With 90% of those who are taking a Thanksgiving trip driving to their destination.
Peter King, CBS News.
Holiday travelers headed through Columbia, Missouri on Wednesday should expect delays on eastbound Interstate 70. MoDOT is closing the right lane just west of St. Charles Road for emergency pavement repairs. The closure is expected to last from 4 a.m. till noon. Officials are warning drivers to expect backups. When will the city of St. Louis use all of its ARPA relief money?
Just given the constraints that we're under with the programming, et cetera, but we are truly focusing on it, and I am very, very confident that we are moving forward in the best possible way.
St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer on KMOX with Chris and Amy speaking about the struggles of spending the nearly $500 million allotted by the federal government in ARPA money. About half of that money has been spent for the 411 projects listed.
It is a Herculaneum task at this point.
The deadline to spend the remaining $280 million is December of 2026. Stuart McMillan, KMOX News.
Bidding has begun for a rare ticket from Michael Jordan's first game as a Chicago Bulls rookie. Carolina Garibay has that.
The ticket is from a 1984 preseason game the Bulls played at Washington High School in Northwest Indiana against the Milwaukee Bucks. It was Michael Jordan's first home game as a rookie. Collector and owner of the ticket, David Blix, said he had put the ticket away and forgot about it. 40 years later, he found the ticket in a box of old baseball cards in his childhood bedroom. He had purchased it for $5. Bidding is now over $3,500. The auction ends Saturday, December 6th.
From the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Desk for tonight, we've got winds that'll gust over 30 miles an hour late tonight. Overnight low 35 degrees. For tomorrow, sunshine, cold, keep it windy, high 46. For tomorrow night, the low 29. For Thanksgiving Thursday, high 42. Thanksgiving night, the low 25. And for Friday's high, 41. Saturday, Sunday, we get rain and wet snow mixing together and a high of 39 degrees. Right now, clouds and 55 downtown. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Here's an energy efficiency tip from Quiver River Electric Cooperative. Thinking about purchasing new appliances? Consider both the purchase price and the cost to operate the appliance over its lifetime of 10 to 20 years. When shopping, look for the Energy Star label. These Energy Star qualified products exceed minimum standards for efficiency and quality. You can save about 15% of your normal energy use with these appliances. For more tips, visit quiver.com or call us at 1-800-392-3709.
It's easy to feel apprehensive about getting screened for cancer or to just keep putting it off. But Siteman Cancer Center wants to remind you how important it is, especially after the age of 40, and they also want you to know how easy it is to get it done. GetScreenedNow.com has all the information you need on cancers like prostate, breast, colon, lung cancer. You can also find out your risk of disease by answering just a few simple questions. And then you can find one of the hundreds of screening locations in the area. Even if you're a little farther out, there is probably a place near you. You have heard this before, but catching cancer early dramatically increases the odds of a successful treatment, especially with so many cancers showing up earlier in life. So do not be intimidated. Siteman will make the process as simple as possible. GetScreenedNow.com. Do it for your family and friends who count on you. Do it for yourself. Visit GetScreenedNow.com.
A KFC tale in the pursuit of flavor. The holidays were tricky for the Colonel. He loved people, but he also loved peace and quiet. So he cooked up KFC's $4.99 chicken pot pie. Warm, flaky, with savory sauce and vegetables. It's a tender chicken-filled excuse to get some time to yourself and step away from decking the halls, whatever that means. The Colonel lived so we could chicken. KFC's Chicken Pot Pie, the best $4.99 you'll spend this season.
Prices and participation may vary while supplies last. Taxes, tips, and fees extra.
Selling your home, it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. You could go it alone, trying to navigate market trends, determine fair pricing, and tackle tricky negotiations on your own. You could second-guess every decision, wondering if you're doing it right. Then there's the showings, the offers, and the mountain of paperwork. Or you could work with the expertise of a Realtor, here to guide and help protect as you make your next big move. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. Right by you.
i3 Broadband, where in the spirit of the season you can feast on 100% fiber internet. Whether you're shopping, streaming, gaming, or gathering, you need reliable and fast internet, and that's the good stuff you can stuff yourself on when you have i3. They always mirror upload and download speeds, they have a price lock guarantee, and you get unbeatable value, support, and service. Call today, 877-976-0711. They have plans for any budget, and you're likely to pay less money for better service compared with whoever currently provides your internet. That's i3 Broadband, i3broadband.com.
Thank you, St. Louis, for making Genesis of St. Charles the #1 Genesis dealer in Missouri for 2025. We know your time is valuable. That's why every purchase comes with 3 years of complimentary Genesis service valet. Unlock your e-price and save. That means complimentary vehicle pickup and delivery, plus a loaner vehicle at no additional cost. Or want something new? We'll bring the test drive to you. Visit genesisofstcharles.com during the Genesis Signature Event. Based on GMA sales records for 2024. See dealer for details.
Hey, just check the mail. We've been invited to a seminar and dinner is free.
It's going to be chicken, and it'll taste like Play-Doh.
Don't be fooled. All seminars are not the same. For example, Steve All, an investment advisor representative and founder of the All Financial Group, is hosting a taxes and retirement seminar at his office in Chesterfield on December 10th. Come meet Steve's newest advisor, Tracy Richardson, as she discusses the big beautiful bill, taxes on your Social Security, and more. Tracy will not only cover the hurdles you can face in retirement, but ways to keep more money in your pocket and less in Uncle Sam's. This is a complimentary event, but seating is limited, so reserve your seat today. Call 636-230-8824 or online at yourmoneymattersstl.com.
You know, hon, I've always been interested in us buying a timeshare.
I'd rather eat Play-Doh.
Investment advisory products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC IPW, a registered investment advisor. Neither the firm nor its agents or representatives may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any purchasing decisions.
Is your home ready for the holidays? Call our cleaning heroes at Zero Res. 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $119. Take $75 off air duct cleaning. Book online anytime at ZeroResSTL.com or call 314-474-2020.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM. Visit consumercellular.com/fax or a store near you. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, ETHOS, ethos.com/life.
At Sandberg Phoenix, we're more than just a law firm. Our attorneys are committed to you, your business, and your community. We are ready to serve you in the areas of business litigation, intellectual property, health law, and products liability. SandbergPhoenix.com. The choice of lawyers is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertising.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, this traffic report is a service of the Sandberg Phoenix Law Firm. We got trouble on Highway 44. Got a crash. I think I mentioned it the last report. Westbound 44 east of Elm. The right lanes are blocked there. Traffic is jamming west of Hampton and about Southwest Avenue on westbound 44. That's a real mess. 64 is an alternate route. Slow from Kings Highway, headed all the way out through Big Bend. There's a little slowdown at Topgolf. 94 most of the way to Winghaven. 364 out to 70. That's all busy. South and North 170 between Ladue and 64 are heavy. Both directions between Manchester and Olive on 270 are slow. Southbound remains down to about Doherty Ferry. Westbound Manchester Barrett Station to 141 still jammed. Southbound 141 midway between Ladue and Conway down to 64 is backed up. There's slow traffic. Clayton down through Clayworth. It's a bog down at Carmen and jams before you get to Big Bend due to a crash near Vance and Valley Park now. Southbound 55 just a little busy. Gasconade Bates and around Highway Z in Peevely. And northbound Highway K and southbound K approaching 364 is still some heavy backups. Now I'm Roger Brand in the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Rush Hour Sports continues on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
It's Rush Hour Sports here on KMOX. That's Nate Gatter. I'm Matt Pauley. Kevin Wheeler's got the week off. If you want to chime in on anything, feel free to leave a comment for those of you who are watching on the video chat. And you can also text in at 314-436-7900. We'll do this for about another 20 minutes or so, and then I've got a full sports open line coming up this evening. We're going to talk with Chris Cotillo today at about 6:20. He's a Red Sox beat writer for Mass Live, and he'll give us the Boston side of things on what the Cardinals are getting back. Our friend Corey Miller from Channel 5 will join us. And also, if you missed it, we ran much of the press conference here on KMOX. We didn't run the whole thing. Chaim Bloom did meet with the media today via Zoom. I went through much of it and pulled out cuts, and we'll play back much of what Chaim Bloom had to say. We'll do that during Sports Open Line as well. So that's all coming up later on today. I am curious, Nate, because Chaim today spoke very openly about the fact that if they are presented 2 pathways, and one pathway presents a better team next year, and one pathway presents a better team for multiple years down the road, they are going down the pathway of the better team down the road. And moving on from Gray, and they'll add a starting pitcher at some point. I actually would contend that they'll probably, whoever is their opening day starter, I don't think is on the roster right now. I think they're going to bring in somebody, maybe not to the level of Gray, but who kind of gets slotted in as their number one starter. But it is very clear that this is a team that right now is more focused on what it's going to look like in years to come.
What makes you think that they're likely to bring in a guy who they would slot over Liberatore for opening day?
Just based off what they talked about a little bit today. Heim spent a lot of time. He said, he was asked very directly, I wish I remember who asked the question, I don't. He was asked very directly, do they feel like there's a void there at the top of the rotation with a veteran starter? And I believe his line was, that is something that we have spent a lot of time discussing. And I don't always get it right when I read between the lines, but as I read between the lines today from Bloom, I thought he was saying that they do have an intention of bringing in a veteran starting pitcher who likely would be essentially their number one.
So what you're saying is Cardinals opening day starter Eric Fetty.
No, I'm not saying that. Miles Michaelis. Clearly Miles Michaelis will be brought back. No, I don't know who it's going to be. There's some, I think whoever it ends up being, they want controllable assets. I don't see this team going out and signing a veteran pitcher for a one-year deal just so they can have a veteran in the rotation. So that's where it gets kind of interesting, because I know there's going to be people who say, well, give me an example. Who are you talking about? And a lot of the veterans, like Kevin all the time talks about Dustin May. Well, Dustin May is coming off a not so great season. He's kind of a reclamation project. So you probably don't bring in him saying he's going to be the number one. A guy I'm sort of interested in is Alek Manoah, because if you bring him in, he spent this entire past year rehabbing. He still has another year of club control beyond this year. He was just non-tendered. But if you bring him in, you get 2 years of control no matter what, but you don't bring him in to be your top of the rotation guy. So I don't know what the answer is. I just feel like they do want somebody to not replace Sonny Gray, but to take his spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I wonder, I don't know, that it just, again, I would be very, very careful about anybody who's going to come in and take innings. The good news is they have the room in their rotation to do that without affecting people's runways. The other thing is, I wouldn't have probably even gone down this road at all before the trade today. If they're showing an indication to spend a little bit of money in exchange for acquiring quality young players, whether that means very young major leaguers with a lot of control or minor leaguers, maybe that does open the door to an older veteran player who's coming in on just a one-year deal as a starting pitcher. But you're thinking, well, now this is a guy where if we really exceed expectations, maybe he's a useful piece to have. Or more likely, if he puts together a good first half of the season, we're flipping him at the deadline. We're saving, a third of what we were going to pay him anyway. And we're pocketing a good young player or two in exchange who we couldn't have just gone out and bought with that money. We had to kind of launder them into the organization by spending the money to acquire a player who we could then trade.
Right. Yeah. This is one of those situations where you wish you had more of an idea of what their plan was. Because Heim said today they are going to go out and acquire players. That is, they're not running away. And to me, I think they're going to be involved in free agency. There's people who are pushing back on the idea that they'll be active in free agency. I think they're going to bring in free agents. I just don't know what that looks like. And is it, the Pirates are a team that love to go bring in that veteran guy and then sell him off at the deadline. I have a hard time totally believing that the Cardinals this year, I don't think that should be their focus. I don't think they're going to bring somebody in with the idea that if it goes well, they're going to be able to trade them off at the deadline. I think their focus and their intent is somewhere else going into the season.
Be interesting too, to that point, if they were going to try to kind of split the baby and do a little bit of that, probably the easiest place to do it is in the bullpen with
Sure.
Where guys are just more willing to sign those kind of short-term deals. So I wonder if we'll see them do a little bit of that too. Because it does seem to me like you're talking, and accurately so, about how unwilling teams are to part with prospects for the most part now. You pretty much, you can't just spend money to go acquire prospects, right? That's one area where dollars aren't going to be enough, and so you kind of need that middle step. And it also is, I don't know how much Heim will want to do that as compared to making these kinds of moves in the offseason, right? I would imagine, this is not a commentary on him. I don't know anything about how he approaches this, but I would imagine if I were in that position and making these extremely important decisions with the future of a franchise in my hands,
I'd kind of rather make those moves in the offseason than have a ticking clock on me the week or the day of the deadline. And we're all kind of scrambling to try to get the best deal we can for this asset that feels like if we hold on to him past the deadline is going to be worth nothing to us because we're losing him for free at the end of the year. I'd like to be able to do that in a more measured, level-headed way, sleep on it a couple of times, make a deal in November, rather than feeling the pressure to do it in that kind of time-pressured environment of July.
Although at times, the what you're going to get back at the trade deadline is going to be the greater return. And I would also say this, when you look at the last 2 years, the Cardinals brought in Andrew Kittredge. What happens? He went out, signed a big contract, made lots of money. Then this past year, they signed Phil Maton late. What happens? He just signed a 2-year deal with the Cubs and makes lots of money. I do think the Cardinals can be a place for some of these guys to feel like if they come in, especially from a relief pitching standpoint, that if the Cardinals are not competing, they could get flipped to a place where they are competing at the end of the year, and that can also turn into more money in the next offseason. So there is some value, I think, for coming to the Cardinals, especially from a relief pitching standpoint.
The difficulty that the Cardinals, I think, are going to have with that is not so much a baseball conversation, more about a branding conversation and a business conversation. Is I think you're right about that. I wouldn't think the Cardinals, I assume the reaction of folks who hear us say something like that, like, well, the Cardinals can be a great place for a guy to come in and fix himself and then go sign with the Cubs for a bunch of money. You know, there's some stomachs are turning over hearing that. And you can only do that for so long before. I mean, they've already lost a lot of goodwill in this market. There's no question about that. That's maybe the one thing everybody in St. Louis could agree on when it comes to the Cardinals is the brand is in a very different place than it was a few years ago. And that's something they're going to have to deal with. You go through another couple of years of dealing with fans feeling like you're almost serving as a farm system for other major league teams, which I'm not saying that that's what their mindset is. But if you're bringing in a reliever on a short-term deal and part of the pitch is we're going to give you innings and then you can go sign a big contract with a division rival, not that specifically it has to be the Cubs, but you get what I'm saying. Like that just feels like another thing that's going to rub a lot of fans the wrong way. And again, they're never going to say it out loud. I hope for the Cardinals' sake, as much as we're praising them for picking a direction, even if that direction is the rebuild, I hope for their sake it doesn't stretch to 3 and 4 years, because every year feels like it's something that's going to take a significant effort to get back. Like the damage that can be done can happen so much more quickly than the work to get it back can be done.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be that long. I really don't. But we'll have a better idea of that after this upcoming season certainly goes through and we see some of these players continue to come to fruition. One more break. We'll come back. We're going to step away from baseball for just a moment. Nate's here, so we got to talk some Mizzou football. I'm going to ask him to give us an Eli Drinkwitz prediction. We'll do that coming up in just a moment. This is Rush Hour Sports on KMOX.
This is Amy Mark Scores, chair of this year's Red Kettle campaign. Christmas reminds us of the challenges faced by our neighbors in need, basic needs we sometimes take for granted. When you give with joy to the Salvation Army, you transform lives. You put food on the table and provide warm beds. You give veterans and seniors purpose. You help a child experience the joy of Christmas. And 90 cents of every dollar donated goes directly to critical social services. Bring joy to the world today. Visit salarmy.us/Amy Mark Scores.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, they're still working this crash westbound Highway 44 east of Elm. The 2 right lanes are blocked, 2 left lanes are open. Traffic is a solid jam from Southwest Avenue, so just west of Hampton as you come around the bend, you're bumper to bumper out into the Webster Groves area, unfortunately. Westbound 64 as an alternate is slow, Kings Highway all the way to Big Bend, but it's not a jam like 44. It's also slow on westbound 64 from K midway to Winghaven and 364 out to 70. 364 northbound from Waterford Crossing up to northbound K, Waterford Crossing up to 364 is backed up. Southbound's backed up through Highway and a lot of congestion. In O'Fallon, 270 both ways between Ladue and Manchester. Still busy. Southbound remains heavy down to about Doherty Ferry. Southbound 141 still backed up north of Big Bend into Valley Park because of a recent crash. 255 still heavy both directions getting off at Route 3 Columbia. We had an earlier crash near Quarry Road. Southbound 55 Z down through McNutt and Peevely heavy. And eastbound 255 or 5570 rather approaching 255 to 157 jammed in that construction zone. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
At Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, every moment with our patients is a gift. This holiday season, you can be the reason children have hope as they fight serious illness and reach milestones once thought impossible. Your gift provides life-saving care to those who need it most. Please donate today at treeofhope.org and be the reason a child has hope for tomorrow.
Join in the festivities as the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra presents Beethoven's Seventh, Energy and Reverie. Sparks of energy will fly across Powell Hall in this spirited Thanksgiving weekend event featuring one of Beethoven's personal favorites, his blazing, boisterous Seventh Symphony. Pianist Joyce Yang joins to give her interpretation of Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini, November 29th and 30th. Tickets at slso.org.
This is Congressman Bob Onder. For 43 days, the left kept the government closed, holding the American people hostage and demanding radical policy changes, including free health care for illegal immigrants. However, thanks to strong Republican leadership, the Senate voted to reopen the government and put America first. I'm thrilled to return to Washington so I can continue to vote to help Missourians, to secure our nation's borders, and to cut wasteful spending. Visit onder.house.gov to find the office closest to you.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
Just a few minutes left here on the program alongside Nate Gatter. I'm Matt Pauley. Thanks so much for being tuned in. It is Rush Hour Sports right here on KMOX. Before we get out of here, we've been talking all baseball. We're going to jump right back into baseball during Sports Open Line. But Nate, Mizzou has had an interesting go of it here recently. Tough loss this past weekend. We're still waiting on the Lane Kiffin news, which is going to come out after the Egg Bowl this weekend between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. But you're so connected to Mizzou. What's your gut saying? Is Eli Drinkwitz going to be back next year?
For a while, I was thinking no. For a while, I thought he was going to be ready to cash in, and he was going to be somebody's second or third choice, whether that was going to be Penn State or Florida. I didn't think LSU was likely just because I figure that whether it's second, third, fourth choice, whatever it is, I figure John Summerall at Tulane is probably higher on their list than Eli Drinkwitz, and he would take the job. So LSU I didn't think was likely. But one of those three, that he would be somebody's second or third and that he would end up he would take a job if offered. Now it seems less likely just because Mizzou has had this slide and kind of disappointing second half of the year that they've had, which, again, is mostly not his fault. Most teams in college football would not do well losing their top two quarterbacks. That's just a reality of the situation. There's this curators meeting coming up tomorrow afternoon. I think it's at 3:00. Which is a little bit interesting. Normally, people with that kind of stature don't meet the afternoon before Thanksgiving. Yeah. Hopefully for Mizzou fans, that's news of an Eli Drinkwitz extension that's going to pretty much assure him staying in Columbia at least for one more year, and we'll see where we go beyond that. I feel a little bit for him. I don't think he's a perfect coach, certainly not in games. I don't think their execution is always perfect. I think their discipline is often lacking in big games. They play like a team that hasn't been there before too often. At the same time, he's been put in such a difficult situation this year, and this is just a situation where Mizzou should have been better, and things didn't work out their way this year, and I don't think it's fair to crucify him for that.
Enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully we can do this again at some point.
Yeah, once in a while, huh?
Yeah, that's good. That's Nate Gatter. Again, coming up, we've got Sports Open Line beginning after the 6 o'clock news. Chris Cotillo is going to join us at 6:20. We'll talk a little hockey with Amy Marks, of course, today. Corey Miller from Channel 5. You'll hear from Heim Bloom as well. That's all coming up during the 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock hours right here on KMOX.
Hey there, it's Steven, the owner of the Photo Pros, formerly Creve Court Camera. Each day, people bring us their family history, single photos in need of restoration, piles of photos wanting them to be scanned, boxes of slides, albums, videotapes, DVDs, and even old home movies. We take them and digitize them, or what we call scan them at high resolution, and place them on a USB thumb drive. Plus, many people want additional copies for the rest of the family. Yes, we'll make you copies. Here's the best part. You don't have to send them out of St. Louis and have a chance of losing them. If needed, we can fix or restore the entire image or images. We are slightly higher priced than the internet, but our quality is top notch. Remember the Photo Pros, formerly Creve Court Camera. Come visit Mark, Derek, Daryl, Tony, and me, Steven, at our store. You can reach us at 314-567-3456 or Google the Photo Pros or even Creve Court Camera.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-269-3454. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-269-3454 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-269-3454 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-269-3454.
It's the biggest savings event of the year. Menards, 11% rebate ends Thanksgiving Day. Save big money on everything you need for any project. We've got something for everyone. Homeowners, contractors, DIYers, the kids, and even grandma. Hurry, Menards 11% rebate ends Thanksgiving Day.
Save big money at Menards.
11% mail-in rebate is a merchandise credit check. Good on future in-store purchases. See menards.com for details.
Winter Wonderland, presented by St. Louis County Parks and Recreation at Tillis Park, is open Wednesday, November 26th through January 3rd. Enjoy more than 1 million dazzling lights with holiday characters and festive scenes. Whether you're carrying on a family tradition or starting a new one, you'll never see anything like Winter Wonderland at Tillis Park. Happy holidays from Kirkwood Fence, Tully Tire, Washington U Orthopedics, Restoration One, and Happy Roof. Get more info at KMOX.com.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com traffic center.
Well, we still got the westbound 44 jam. They're clearing that crash. It looks like maybe the lanes are getting open now. It's westbound 44 between Laclede Station and Elm, and traffic is still jammed right around Arsenal, west of Southwest Avenue, bumper to bumper coming out of the city. If you want alternate routes, southbound 55, just a little busy, Gasconade through Bates. Westbound 64, busier than that, but it's still better than 44. Westbound 64, Kings Highway, headed out through to about Big Bend is still pretty slow. And then after that, you've got slow stuff west of K, midway to Winghaven, and 364 out to 70. Eastbound 64 slow. East of Mason at 270. There's a crash. They were clearing to the shoulder. Midway between Lindbergh and McKnight. It's bogged down east of McKnight to that one. Southbound 270, just a little slow. Manchester down to Doherty Ferry. Westbound Manchester, west of Mason to 141, backed up. It's better than it was earlier. Southbound 141, Big Bend down into Valley Park, still pretty congested from earlier troubles. And eastbound 5570 still jammed, approaching 255 to 157. For the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com traffic center.
Celebrating 100 years of informing and entertaining. KMOX AM St. Louis, KMOX FM Hazelwood, the voice of St. Louis.
It's Thanksgiving travel time.
We'll spend Thanksgiving together as a family.
A potential deal to end the war in Ukraine could be close.
Both the U.S. and Ukraine are signaling a lot of optimism.
The FBI investigates 6 Democratic lawmakers.
The use of the FBI against us is exactly why we made the video.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Stacey Lynn. The holiday travel rush is on.
Today's Tuesday, so I'm moving now. So I'm thinking, I think I picked the right day to travel.
He's at the Denver airport, and reporter Neil Augustine is in the nation's capital.
Here at Dulles, a lot of the Tuesday before Thanksgiving travelers were holding their breaths during the recent government shutdown.
I was a little bit worried about the flight cancellations.
Did she have a plan B?
Plan B would have been staying in D.C., so yeah.
Another couple's flying out to see the wife's family on the West Coast. They're looking forward to a good meal and mostly hanging out and catching up.
The TSA expects to screen nearly 18 million people in the next 7 days. That's the busiest airports have been in at least 15 years. An end to the nearly 4-year-old war in Ukraine may be close. CBS's Linda Kenyon in Washington.
In a post on social media, President Trump said the 28-point peace plan drafted by the U.S. has been fine-tuned. He added he has directed Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to meet with Russian President Putin in Moscow. At the same time, Secretary of the Army Dan Driscoll will meet with the Ukrainians. The president said he hopes to meet with Ukraine's President Zelensky and President Putin when the deal is final or in its final stages. wages.
The feds are investigating some Democratic lawmakers. Here's Justice correspondent Scott McFarland.
Multiple sources tell CBS News the FBI has notified 6 Democratic members of Congress that they're the subject of an inquiry over a video they made last week in which they urged U.S. service members that they don't have to follow unlawful orders.
Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin is one of them and called the probe a weaponization of the federal government against perceived adversaries of President Trump.
If he wants to use the FBI and Kash Patel against us, that is his choice, but it just reaffirms why we made this video in the first place.
All 6 lawmakers are veterans or former national security officials. High school football coach Travis Turner is missing, and Robin Lawson with the Virginia State Police says he's now been charged.
Turner is wanted on 5 counts of child pornography and 5 counts of using a computer to solicit a minor.
On Wall Street, stocks finished higher today. Now this.
The annual Progressive Keys to Progress program provides vehicles to deserving veterans, helping our heroes drive their lives forward. Learn more at keystoprogress.com.
At 6:03, it's a mostly cloudy sky. Right now, 54 degrees downtown at the Arch. As the Cardinals go through a process of restocking talent, often called a rebuild, the cost for now is pitcher Sonny Gray.
Gray has been the Cardinals' #1 starter each of the last 2 seasons. He's traded to Boston for Richard Fitz, who just completed his rookie season, and Brandon Clark, who has not pitched above single-A, but is now a top 10 prospect in the organization. Cardinals president of baseball operations Chaim Bloom says this helps the team long-term.
The way to get there is through building on our core of talent and having promising young talent that can be with us for many years and that have their best ahead of them, we hope. Sometimes the long term might conflict with the short term. Sonny's a really talented pitcher. There's no doubt about that. When those two things run in opposite directions, we're going to choose the long term because that's where this organization needs to be.
The Cardinals are reportedly picking up about $20 million of Gray's salary to make the deal happen. Matt Pauley, KMOX Sports.
Sheriff Alfred Montgomery's trial to potentially remove him from office has concluded.
Sheriff's Attorney David Mason maintains the attorneys general have no evidence to prove their accusations, while downplaying the legitimacy or seriousness of the witness testimony or video proof they introduced.
I think that he was left with really trying to exaggerate some things to try to raise them to the level of being something sufficient quo warranto, and I think that argument largely failed.
While case law was raised by the attorneys general, it was used to put the quo warranto in context, and their closing argument focused on the video evidence and testimony that supports their counts. Judge Stephen Omer said he will weigh his decision and make it based on evidence, and although he gave no timeline, he said he will do his best to rule in a timely manner. Outside the Carnahan Courthouse, Sean Malone, KMOX News.
St. Louis Voices Academy of Media Arts Charter School in the Park Pacific building will not be allowed to reopen after Thanksgiving after a security assessment by former police chief Sam Dotson.
The Missouri Charter Public Schools Commission sent a letter to the school saying if the security deficiencies are not corrected and those actions not met, the commission will initiate permanent closure. Now, as part of the immediate closure, the commission requires SLVA to do several things, including temporarily using 36 hours of virtual instruction, notify parents and staff. Dotson's report says based on site observations, interviews, and policy analysis, SLVA faces persistent safety and security risks that warrant corrective action, potentially exceeding what can be addressed while the school operates in its current manner. Maria Kina, KMOX News.
Union workers turned out in force last night to urge the Festus City Council to approve a new data center. While some residents raised environmental concerns, supporters argue the development would bring new jobs. Union laborer Jacob West says the project is about more than just a building.
I'm asking you to weigh the full picture, not just the fear of change or the noise of what might go wrong, but the very real upside for local families and local residents here. Growth creates jobs. Jobs can turn into careers, and those careers help stabilize communities.
But neighbors are still concerned about noise and the environmental impact on their properties. It is 6:06 right now. So let's get you to Roger Brand, find out what's happening in the KMOX Traffic Center. Roger?
We still got some slow going out there, Michael, and jam on 44, unfortunately. This traffic reports a service of Amon, Gantner, and Capriano. They did clear the crash westbound 44. It looked to me like it was cleared at near the Edgar Road overpasses, about midway between Laclede Station and Elm. But traffic is still a solid jam on westbound 44, and that begins right around Southwest Avenue, Hampton. Getting up to this point on westbound 44. So, again, tough traffic, a solid jam running all the way out of the city to that point. Westbound 64, it's still heavy, but it's better as an alternate. Kings Highway headed out through Bellevue a little bit of congestion, but it's not jammed. It's slow west of K midway to Winghaven and Lake St. Louis Boulevard on 70, eastbound 64, east of Mason to 270, slow. There's a little backup east of Lindbergh midway into McKnight. They were clearing a crash there. 255 is still heavy eastbound east of the JB Bridge on the Route 3. We had a crash earlier on Route 3 southbound at Quarry Road in Columbia. Westbound Manchester is still backed up west of Mason to 141. That's still pretty tough going. We still have the road repair underway eastbound 5570 at 157, left lane closed, a jam through 255. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
A bit of a gloomy day across the St. Louis area, and partly to mostly cloudy skies will be with us this evening and overnight. But the big deal tonight, we have a cold front coming by. Winds will be turning to the northwest. It's windy and it's colder. Some of these winds could be pushing 30 miles per hour, especially late tonight. 35 for the overnight low. Before that front, temperatures will stay upper 40s, low 50s for evening plans. On Wednesday, partly to mostly sunny skies, but it's a windy day. It's a cold day, 46 for the high, but it will feel colder if you're caught in that wind. Wednesday night, partly cloudy and cold, down to 29. Thursday, Thanksgiving, plenty of sunshine, breezy and cold, 42 degrees, clear and cold. Thursday night, 25. Let's keep going through the long holiday weekend. Friday, partly sunny, 41. Friday night, cloudy skies, a mix of rain and wet snow, 32, so real borderline temperatures, but cold enough. Saturday and Sunday, a mix of rain and wet snow, 39 each day. From the Saliga Heating and Cooling Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Dave Murray on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
And right now it's a cloudy sky, 54 downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Come on, let's get going now.
From KMOX Sports.
We're primed and ready. All day, baby. Man, let's go.
This is the Gray Bar Sports Open Live. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. On 104.1 FM, KMOX.
On a Tuesday night, here we go. It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. I've got you for the next 2 hours. We take you till 8 o'clock tonight. We have a very busy program on the way. In about 10 minutes, we're going to be joined by Chris Cotillo. Chris is a Red Sox beat writer for MassLive.com, and we'll get his thoughts on the Sonny Gray trade today, and more specifically, what he thought about what the Cardinals are getting in return for Sonny Gray. We'll talk some hockey, our weekly conversation with Hockey Amy. Amy Markscourse is going to join us at 6:35. Next hour, we'll talk with Corey Miller from Channel 5. We'll get his thoughts on the Sonny Gray trade. We'll talk some Mizzou with him as well. And then, as mentioned earlier today, and you've heard some of the audio here on the station, and we ran some of the press conference when it was actually taking place. But Chaim Bloom did meet with the assembled media today, and we're going to go back through some of what he had to say and play a good number of those cuts. That's going to happen at about 7:30 or so. As always, if you want to chime in on what we're talking about, multiple ways to get connected with the program. You can call or text 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. You can tweet at me, at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air. And for those of you who are watching on the video stream, we welcome your phone calls and, we welcome your messages via the video stream. You can certainly do that as we take you through the course of the next 2 hours. So let's start with my thoughts on what went down today. It had become abundantly clear recently that the Cardinals were likely to move on from Sonny Gray. Gray was ready to go pitch for a team that was in more of a win-now moment, and he had a large salary connected to him. And if the Cardinals could trade him, get a good return, and get out from some of that money, that was something that could expedite the process that the Cardinals are currently going through to get back to where they want to be. And from a financial standpoint, you can look at it from two separate ways. You can look at it as they're picking up $20 million of his salary for the upcoming season. So they are paying him, they're giving him $20 million, and he's not going to pitch for the Cardinals. For the people out there who are very critical of the Cardinals about their willingness to eat money, well, they're eating $20 million. Now, that's talking out of one side of the mouth. Talking out of the other side of the mouth is they're also saving $20 million. Yeah, they're not. Sonny Gray isn't a member of the Cardinals, but they're getting out from underneath the other $20 million there. So you can look at it either way for sure, but the Cardinals are not exactly known as a team that eat a lot of money that go pay players to go play for another team, and that's what they're doing with Gray. They're picking up $20 million. And I don't know what the market was for Gray. I assume that there were a number of suitors out there. And I even think that if they would have waited longer, maybe some other things could have potentially developed. But I would assume that the Cardinals' willingness to pick up that money allowed them to get a better return. And we need to put everything in perspective when it comes to return. We're living right now in a world of misinformation, and there is so much misinformation out there right now when it comes to what the market value is for players who the Cardinals might trade. Like, I'm seeing some of the stuff out here connected to what the Cardinals could get for a Brendan Donovan, and I think Donovan is an incredibly valuable player that the Cardinals are going to get some really, really nice pieces for. But some of the stuff I see on social media, and I'd love to be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll be the first person to yell and scream and raise my hand and say that I was wrong. But I look at all the various social media stuff out there assessing Donovan's value as being able to go get a really high-level, can't-miss type prospect, a guy who's going to be able to garner an organization's top or second best prospect in the organization, a guy who's going to get you a top 50 prospect in all of baseball, things like that. That's just, it's not going to happen. Maybe Donovan gets you a top 100 guy towards the end of the top 100, maybe, but even that might be a bit of a stretch. So what are the Cardinals trying to do here? What's Chaim Bloom trying to do here as he goes through this offseason, where we assume there's going to still be more moves to be made? And I think you can kind of take the Nolan Arenado move and just put that off to the side. Moving on from Arenado, much as was the case last year. Moving on from Arenado, it's not so much about what you're going to get back for Arenado. It's about getting him to a better situation where this team can move forward with him not being on the roster anymore. But when it comes to anybody else that they might trade, when it comes to Brendan Donovan, when it comes to Alec Burleson, when it comes to Lars Nootbaar, when it comes to Nolan Gorman, when it comes to Pedro Pajes, when it comes to Jojo Romero, those are just some of the names that have been connected to, have been rumored to be on the trading block. When it comes to any of those guys, the idea is to maximize value in what you're getting back. And the Cardinals feel like they did that. In Richard Fitz, who is someone who is still very young in his big league career, he has had some good moments in his career. He has appeared in 15 Major League games, 14 starts. Of his 14 starts, he's given up 3 or fewer earned runs in 11 of them. So he certainly has had some success. He's also dealt with some injury issues as he's gone through. And then Brandon Clark, he throws hard. He's a left-hander. And over his minor league career, he has 60 strikeouts over 38 innings pitched. They would like to see him as a starter, no guarantee of that. There is still some wildness that goes along with him as well. 27 walks in the 38 innings at the minor league level. So you keep going and getting these type of guys. And this is a perfect trade for the Cardinals because you get somebody who's going to be able to help you at the big league level in Fitz. And you would think that he's going to be slotted into the major league rotation. I think the only 100% guarantees, barring injury, that are going to be in the rotation pretty much no matter what are Michael McGreevy and Matthew Liberatore. But then that next group of probably in the rotation, I would put Fitz in there. I think he likely walks into spring training with a spot in the rotation that, while it's not, an ironclad guarantee he's going to be in there, he is likely to stay in there. So you get somebody who's going to be able to help you at the major league level, who you also have club control on for a good number of years. He is controllable. That is something that the Cardinals very much want to have. They want to have controllable pitching. You get that in Fitz. And then you've got a guy who has an incredibly high ceiling in Brandon Clark. Now, just because somebody has an incredible ceiling doesn't mean they're going to reach it. And we have to be ready as people who want to see the Cardinals do well. We have to be ready to accept the fact that there's going to be moves made, and some of them are going to work, and some of them are not going to work. But if you go out, if you're Chaim Bloom, and you keep going out and you keep acquiring pieces that if they hit their ceiling, are doing the things that you really want to see done from a pitching standpoint, going and getting hard throwers who get swing and miss. If you're bringing in position players, guys who hit the ball hard and over the wall and hit home runs, if you keep getting a bunch of guys like that and you hit on a few of them, then that's what's going to eventually result in the team improving their roster from the top up. Because that's where the Cardinals' problem exists right now. The Cardinals' best player is not good enough to be the Cardinals' best player. And this is not a shot at whoever they might be. There are a lot of players on the Cardinals roster who I like a lot and who I think can be part of teams that win a lot. But they can't be part of teams that win a lot if they are going to be the best player on the team. So the Cardinals need to find a way to bring in players who will eventually become the best players on the team. And somebody like a Brandon Clark, no guarantee he reaches his potential, but if he does reach his potential, that is a dangerous, dangerous proposition in your rotation. It's years down the road, but it's the possibility of super high-end talent, which is something that they are still very much looking for. 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. That's how you call. That's how you text. You can tweet at me as well, at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air. For those of you watching the video stream, you can leave a comment. We will take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Chris Cotillo. He covers the Red Sox for Mass Live. He joins us in just a moment. This is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Brought to you by Eamon Gantner and Capriano, YourEstateMatters.com. Hi, Margaret with Eamon Gantner and Capriano. How's your family? Do you have a legal plan for them when you're gone? Eamon Gantner and Capriano, YourEstateMatters.com.
The choice of an attorney is an important decision and shouldn't be based solely on advertising.
Overhead Door Company of St. Louis, the genuine, the original, present 100 years of KMOX.
Watching Hurricane Katrina make landfall.
There, when we came together.
We are at the Schnooks at Butler Hill, just off 55. We are collecting donations and goods for Hurricane Katrina victims.
Move-in kits for the folks who were evacuated because of Hurricane Katrina.
There's just a steady stream of cars, people donating entire baskets full of things.
It's amazing to see this many people.
KMOX listener said I had to drop by and give something off.
Detergent and bleach and towels and cleansers.
What it all comes down to is this is a great way for you today to help the victims.
Pretty amazing. In fact, it's kind of choking me up how supportive everyone has been.
There for every headline, every heartbreak, every heartbeat. KMOX. The voice of St. Louis. Brought to you by St. Louis Public Library, St. Louis's original search engine.
Looking for some iced caffeine, left you in the cold. No one knows why brown water costs as much as liquid gold. Told him your name was Brian, why does this cup say Nicole? But then you found paradise in your cup at the Quick Trip. No regrets to start your day.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's nothing to it. There's a brand new way to do it. 3-day kitchen and bath.
Ask most contractors about a kitchen or bath remodel, and you'll get similar answers.
So how long?
About 2 months.
Longer than that.
3 days.
Longer than... Wait a minute, what?
3 days.
3 days?
3 days or less. With 3-day kitchen and bath, you get a new kitchen or bath finished with top quality products and craftsmanship, all in 3 days or less guaranteed.
No eating out because my kitchen is in shambles for a month?
Nope.
No borrowing the neighbor's bathroom for weeks on end?
You'll have a whole new look in 3 days or less.
And those other guys?
They want our web address.
Hey, what's your web address?
See?
A lot of people will.
Just visit 3daykitchen.com. 3daykitchen.com.
3 days?
3 days. Yeah, isn't that something? 3-day kitchen and bath. Simply amazing.
3-day kitchen and bath.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-323-8922. 800-323-8922. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-323-8922.
Woke radical liberals are screwing up this country, but Congressman Jason Smith is fighting back. He backed one big, beautiful tax cut for working families, ending Social Security taxes for nearly all seniors, and taxes on tips and overtime gone. So call Congressman Jason Smith at 202-225-4404 and thank him for backing working family tax cuts and putting America first. Paid for by American Prosperity Alliance.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
This is Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX, continuing to talk about the news of the day. The first major move made by the Cardinals since Chaim Bloom taking over as the president of baseball operations. He does a little business with his former team as he sends Sonny Gray to Boston, getting back a couple young pitchers, Richard Fitz, who's been in the big leagues really for this past season for his first extended look there, and then Brandon Clark, who pitched at the single-A level. Very happy to welcome on to the program. He covers the Red Sox as a beat writer for Mass Live. He is Chris Cotillo. You follow him on Twitter at Chris, Cotillo. Chris, thanks for taking some time. How are you?
I'm good. Busy day. How are you?
I'm good as well. What's been the kind of the Boston reaction to this move where Gray comes in and seemingly slots in as the number 2 starter in the Red Sox rotation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is, the headline that they went and got and made an aggressive move for a rotation piece at this point. It's no secret what they need. They needed a veteran starter to put alongside Crochet and a power bat to put in the middle of the lineup, not just to replace Bregman's production if he goes elsewhere, but to, exceed it. So I think people were expecting a little bit higher of a target, whether it be a Joe Ryan or a Hunter Green or Mackenzie Gore, Framber Valdez, Dylan Cease, the list goes on and on. Obviously, none of those guys have moved. And so I think here a little bit underwhelmed by Sonny Gray, just as a guy who, you don't think of Sonny Gray, and people in St. Louis would know this better than us, obviously, but you don't think of Sonny Gray at age 36 as a guy who is a 1B to Crochet or a guy who is even a number 2. The early indications I'm getting is that, the Red Sox are comfortable with this being their big offseason addition. Obviously, there's a lot of time, a big offseason pitching addition. Obviously, there's a lot of time before spring training. But, it's not the type of thing where they look at it and, are going to slot him into the number 4 spot. So I think a little surprised, a little underwhelmed from the fan base just because, why do that on November 25th when the market's not settled? To me, it also speaks to the fact that, they really wanted this guy. Obviously, the expected numbers last year were really good, better than, the ERA and some of the back of the baseball card things you'd look at. But I think, obviously people always are in the pipe dream world of, Scooble, right? But yeah. Joe Ryan at least, or some of those guys. I think this was a name that maybe was in the next tier down. And if that's it in terms of their number 2, I think people are going to walk away with it underwhelmed.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag on Gray at a 4.28 ERA, but like you said, the expected number's better. I think his fielding independent was around 3.5 or so. Strikes out a bunch of guys. His strikeout to walk ratio is one of the best in the big leagues, but also gives up a lot of home runs. So no matter what side of the line you stand on, you can make the argument for or against Gray, basically using all those numbers that we just referenced.
Yeah, and I think, they've obviously had to do their homework. When you think of Sonny Gray, as a Red Sox fan, you think of a guy who, was not a good fit in a huge market in New York.
Yeah.
And I think that was very well publicized. It feels like forever ago. He's been on, 3 or 4 different teams since then. But, obviously reinvented his career, had a great season in Minnesota, a couple solid ones in St. Louis. 8 years later, is he more equipped to take on the huge market in the Northeast? I think they're hoping that. Obviously a lot's changed in that time, but that's another, I think, concern. And again, to me, this is kind of too inside Red Sox probably for a St. Louis audience, but I was setting the bar heading into the offseason as someone who's better than Brian Bayo, who was their number 2 for most of the year, along with Giolito, who's a free agent. And I don't know that Gray hits that mark right now. And I do think they gave up a lot, which I'm sure we'll get to as well.
Yeah, let's get to that right now. So let's go to an alternate universe where they do not trade Richard Fitts, and he is in line to be in the rotation for the Red Sox next season. If somebody would have come to you in that situation and said, what are your thoughts on Fitts as a Red Sox starter, what would you have said?
Yep. I mean, he's a guy that, due to injuries in spring training last year, they had Bayo and Giolito go down with some really short-term things, and they had Cutter Crawford, who led them in innings the year before, go down, and he ended up missing the season with setbacks. So they were down 3 guys when camp broke, and Fitz was their number 4, had a really, really good camp, and was pretty good in 2 or 3 starts to start the year. Strained his pec during a start in Chicago in mid-April. After that, they kind of rushed him back because they were short on pitching in May. Instead of making a rehab start, he made an abbreviated start in the majors. He had, a lot of starts and stops throughout the year. If you look at his game log, and, I actually would encourage Cardinals fans to actually look at this, because there's 15 days without pitching at any level because they needed a starter in the majors, but they weren't sure if a guy was going to be available. So they scratched him from a start at Worcester, but didn't use him. But there's a lot of that throughout the year where he was just the 6th guy, next man up the entire time. A 2-inning start in Milwaukee because they didn't have anybody to pitch, and they did just a lot of weird stuff that he was in that kind of 6-man role. So I think when you look at it with that and the neuritis that cost him the last month, his innings total across the 2 levels wasn't very high last year. He made 10 starts in the big leagues. He got hit hard toward the end, but I think a guy that heading into the season people were really excited about in Boston. They got him in the Verdugo trade 2 years ago. Has a lot of pure stuff. A guy that kind of had a weird season, and also from the Red Sox perspective, got passed by some of these younger pitchers. Connolly Early obviously started a playoff game for them. Peyton Tolley, a top prospect, kind of emerged by the end. They got Kyle Harrison in the Devers trade. He barely contributed, but he's a guy they like. They're going to have Crawford back next year healthy, Patrick Sandoval back next year healthy. So a guy that had kind of fallen down their depth chart because they do have a ton of those young, controllable back-end starters, but a guy, with upside. If you look at his first, 6-7 major league starts, he was unbelievable and really, really good. Pitched well at AAA last year. But it's, kind of turned into something that Heim never experienced when he was here, an area of depth and strength. I mean, they traded Quinn Priester the first week of April, and look what he turned into in Milwaukee. So, a guy that I don't think the Red Sox wanted to give up on, but just they have other guys in that mix, and someone that, I was, overall, I think I was surprised by the package in total.
Should also be noted that, a lot of people hear that Heim's doing business with the Red Sox. Well, these are Heim guys. They're not. Fitz and Clark came into the Red Sox organization after Heim left.
Yeah. Fitz, like I said, was kind of the main prospect piece in winter meetings trade 2 years ago that sent Verdugo to the Yankees. Obviously, those 2 teams don't deal very often. And then Clark was a 4th or 5th round pick in 2024 under the Breslow regime. And all Breslow has done is draft pitchers and try to develop pitchers in his 2 years here.
Brandon Clark, left-hander, throws hard, sits 97, 98, can touch 100 if you need him to. In the minor leagues, admittedly at the single-A level, tons of strikeouts, 60 strikeouts over his 38 minor league innings. Looks like a very intriguing piece, and it's somebody that I think Cardinals fans are excited about what he might turn into.
Yeah, and they should be. You look at I would just completely take out his last 2 outings. I think he had 3 innings over those last 2 outings and got lit up because he was dealing with the blister stuff that cost him, the last couple months of the season. The Red Sox are, at the beginning of these guys' careers, very careful with pitchers. They've had, all their college pitcher picks, of which there's been a billion of them the last 2 years, not even pitched their first year in pro ball. Peyton Tolley, for an example, didn't, and started this year, made it all the way to the majors. And so with Clark, it was, the helium was crazy as of late July in terms of being a fast rising prospect. I pulled an article that we had on Mass Live in the end of July, right before the deadline, and Baseball America said there's no prospect with more helium in the game than this guy right now, from someone who was up to, at the point where his season ended prematurely, 81 in the game. And he was, I think in the minds of Red Sox people, because he has struck out so many guys and had such a good stretch in April, May, and June, like their top pitching prospect ahead of Tolley and Early, two guys that were on their postseason roster when October came around. So, you look at, from an injury perspective, obviously blisters are annoying, and everyday people, the hangnail blister thing is unpleasant, but it's not an arm injury. It's not elbow. It's not, any of that stuff. It's just he couldn't grip the ball. And, I think as Chaim alluded to on the call earlier, like he's going to be able to figure that out as he goes along. And I think this is a guy that, has a tremendous ceiling, a little bit unpolished. He was a JUCO draft pick, so never faced, great competition, wherever, Manatee College in Florida or something like that. So he's raw in a lot of ways and unpolished, but very physical, throws 100. I was, my first reaction, seriously, when I saw the, who they sent was, oh, that's a lot, and that's just off the cuff and before the money was involved. I think I understand why the Red Sox made the trade, but and moving Clark and Fitz, these guys are guys of value, and I think Chaim did pretty well to get both of them.
He is Chris Cotillo, does a great job covering the Red Sox, masslive.com. Follow him on Twitter at Chris Cotillo. Chris, thanks so much for taking the time on a busy day. I believe you were the one also who broke the money part of this deal. That should be noted, the $20 million going back. So you've been all over this from the start.
That'll be in my obituary, I'm sure.
There you go. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
That is Chris Cotillo joining us. A conversation I had with him earlier today, and we appreciate his thoughts on it. And, from his standpoint, he sounds like he thought that the Red Sox gave up a lot for Sonny Gray. And just looking at social media today, it certainly feels like that a lot of Red Sox fans feel like it was a little bit of an overpay. There's some of these social media algorithms that break down things. And that's always tough, but overpay seems to be a word that's been used a lot about what the Red Sox gave up for Sonny Gray. Gray, obviously, it's not an overpay in the sense that Gray was the Cardinals' number one pitcher. And right now, there's not a lot of the rotation is not as good right now as it was when we woke up this morning. But I think we also knew that Gray was likely to get moved. All right, we're going to jump right back into baseball later on in the show. But up next, we'll switch gears. We'll talk a little hockey with Amy Markscore. She joins us in just a moment. This is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
What's up, Missouri? Tony Gonzalez here. I've spent a lot of Sundays right here playing in front of the best fans in football. And now it's almost your turn to get in the game because DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to the Show Me State on December 1st. Soon you'll get fast payouts when you win, a safe and secure app that's easy to use, and promos that keep the action going all season long. It's America's top-rated sportsbook app. New customers can sign up right now and score $300 in bonus bets on launch day, December 1st.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code KMOX. New Missouri customers, sign up today and score $300 in bonus bets once we're live. That's code KMOX. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable and expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
I love being able to tell you about my friends over at i3 Broadband. They are the internet service provider at my home, and I think you would like it if they were your provider as well. There's a lot that they've got going on here in the month of November. But really, it's not just November. It's all the time. 100% fiber internet. That's not going to change. And what that does is it gives you peace of mind that your internet's not just going to drop down for random no reasons. price lock guarantees. They're not going to, it's not a bait and switch. They're not going to get you as a customer, and then all of a sudden they're going to jack the price on you. That's not anything that they do. And then you want effective internet, right? That's what you want. Well, this is more than effective. It's fast, 1 gig, 2 gig, 8 gigs. They mirror their upload and download speed, so you don't have to worry about one side being more fast than the other and everything getting bogged down because of it. So the big question is, are they available in your neighborhood? You can find out by going to their website, i3broadband.com, and putting in your address, i3broadband.com. Or you can just give them a call, and they will answer any question you might have. 877-976-0711. That's 877-976-0711 for i3 Broadband.
I'm Tom Ackerman with this month's Siteman Cancer Center Spotlight, Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. And joining us is Dr. Rohina Pani.
Slightly higher, I would say, trend towards men, likely related to the lifestyle risk factors like smoking. But once you have diagnosed a patient with pancreatic cancer, the treatment options and the response to treatment is very similar for both genders.
Thanks to Siteman Cancer Center, national leaders in cancer. For more information, visit siteman.wustl.edu.
Attention, have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-224-5353. That's 800-224-5353. Again, that's 800-224-5353.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Missouri can count on.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
We do take you till 8 o'clock this evening. It is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line. We're mostly talking Cardinals baseball today after the Sonny Gray trade was announced earlier. We'll still hear from Corey Miller from Channel 5, and we'll also hear from Chaim Bloom. He met with the media earlier today, and we'll play back some of what he had to say later on the program. But for now, we're going to switch gears, and we're going to talk some Blues hockey. The Blues, they have one more game to go on this 5-game East Coast trip. So far, they've won just one game on Saturday. They knocked off the Islanders 2-1, but then back at last night, they lost the Rangers 3-2. Very happy to welcome somebody on that you listen to every weekday during the midday here on KMOX as part of the Chris and Amy Show. Also co-hosting Offside Hockey along with Chris Kerber on Matrix Midwest. It's our good friend Hockey Amy Marks Course. Hey, Amy.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
I'm all right. We have these conversations every week, and I love talking to you every week. But I always want to come up with something different to talk about. And while it was nice to see them get a win on Saturday against the Islanders, it still doesn't feel like that much has really changed for this team.
Yeah, I know. You know, when you look at the road trip so far, they have the overtime loss against Toronto, the overtime loss against Philadelphia, the win against the Islanders, the loss against the Rangers. Now, with the first 3 games of that road trip, they got 4 out of 6 possible points, which I think normally would be something that you're happy about, except they had leads in both of those games that ended up being overtime losses. So those first 3 games, in my mind, should have been 6 out of 6 possible points. The New York Rangers had won one game at home all season. Yeah. They were 1-7-1 at Madison Square Garden, and you lose that game. So while, yes, the Blues have 4 points in 4 games, it does feel a bit more negative than it should, especially those first three, Matt. Giving up leads has been plaguing them since last year.
Isn't it remarkable? I know we've talked about this before, but it feels like anytime there's one of those type statistics that you just mentioned, the team has won one game at home, or the team comes in on a 5-game losing streak, or the team has lost 7 of their last 9 road. Whatever the scenario is, if they're facing off a team that has a negative trend, it feels like they always lose to that team.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I hate it when you happen to be that team. But if there's a guy who hasn't scored all season long yet, he'll get his first goal of the season against you, against the Blues. That's happened quite a few times where players who haven't scored all season are getting those goals against the Blues. Teams that are struggling, have lost 5 games in a row, break their losing streak against the Blues, or who are struggling to get wins at home, get that win at home against the Blues. And that's not a good pattern to see. And to be honest, Joey Vitale brought this up several weeks ago, long before we were in the situation we're in now. And Joey Vitale said the number one thing is you can't start to adopt a victim mentality where you think things are going to go wrong. He's talking of the players now, where you just expect every bounce to go against you or every team to have their big game against you. And it would be easy for them to feel that way right now. That Islanders game, that came close. And I know Chris Kerber had said if that goalie interference hadn't happened, if the Blues had lost that game, that might have been a dagger that they couldn't have bounced or come back from.
Yeah, we're talking with Amy Marks, of course, through her weekly conversation here on Sports Open Line, going through all things St. Louis Blues hockey. It's when the season got started, the narrative was, you got to have a hot start because you play so many games at home. And then things did not go well. And then they get set for this long road trip. And the narrative was, well, this is the opportunity for the team to come together. And yes, they have gotten points in 3 of the games, as you allude to, but the trip has not gone well. They've only got 1 win on this trip. Again, I'm not trying to just bury this team, but it feels like anytime they openly speak about what they need to do or the opportunities they need to take advantage of, they then don't follow up by actually doing it.
Yeah, no, and I think we have to keep shifting the narrative to try to create a situation where this trend of just losing could change. And like you said, you brought up the road trip, and it hasn't gone particularly well. And it is a condensed schedule this year. That's why there was so much focus on the beginning of the season. When you look at the Olympic break, it's really 3 full weeks that the NHL has paused, but they're still playing 82 games. So you're going to have that condensed schedule. In fact, the Blues have their game against the New Jersey Devils tomorrow night. And then this weekend, they have 3 home games in 4 days that they're going to knock out that home stand pretty quickly before they go on the road again. And, Matt, I'm still holding out hope because at the end of the day, I am a Blues fan. I love Blues hockey, but it's been frustrating. So what am I holding on to? The goaltending's been better. Yeah. The goaltending's turning around. And in fact, there's a glass half full, glass half empty, angle to this, is that the goaltending is the reason why the Blues won that game against the Islanders. It wasn't like the team pulled it together. It was a better game. But when you have Jordan Binnington standing on his head again, or Joel Hofer, you think, okay, this is good. They can steal some points for you, but you also don't want to rely solely on your goaltender stealing points. It's such a cliche, but your best players have to be your best players, and the Blues' top skaters are struggling now, so much so that Jake Neighbors, who missed 12 games of the, 23, is still tied for the lead in goals on this team.
I don't know if you agree with this, Amy. I would argue the defense has been early on in the season. Teams were skating into the offensive zone against the Blues, and they immediately had a grade A opportunity to score a goal. And I don't feel like it's quite to that extreme level right now. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the goaltenders. You're right in what you say about the goalies. But I do think while it's not major better help defensively, I do think defensively they're getting a little bit better play in front of them.
It does look like that. And I don't want to take away from them playing better. I will also say they haven't played great teams with the New York Rangers or the Philadelphia Flyers or the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they're not necessarily playing against the top offenses. Like what does their defense look like when they take on the Colorado Avalanche, who have 16 wins, 1 loss, and 5 overtime losses? That doesn't even sound possible right now. They have 1 regulation loss this year. So, what does it look like? What does it look like when they face the Stars, the Wild, the Mammoths, all teams in their own division? I don't know. But you're right. Hey, if you're playing a team that's struggling, exploit that. And then get your act together, right? While you're playing against teams that are struggling as well. When you listen to some of the narratives around the Toronto Maple Leafs and what they're going through, I mean, a lot of the conversations, you hear about the Blues. Craig Berube is not happy with his team's play right now with the Maple Leafs, and so the Blues were playing another team that was struggling, but the only thing that matters is getting points. What's remarkable in this whole thing is like Toronto. They've got 21 points this year. It is terrible. They're the worst team on the eastern side of things. They are 5 points out of a playoff spot. Boston is the final wild card spot with 26 points. So the worst team in the East is 5 points out of a playoff spot. The Blues with 20 points right now. They are 7 points out of a playoff spot. 7 points can be made up in 3 weeks, especially. So it's incredible because the league right now is so top heavy, Amy, and there's so many middling teams that if any team decides that they're going to win a bunch of games in a row, they're right there where they need to be. They are. No, I think that's a good point because, like I said, my negative point was that the Blues struggled against the Flyers, the Maple Leafs, and the Rangers, and both the Rangers and the Maple Leafs are last place in their division. But you're right. There's an opportunity for these middle teams to make a push. I'm okay with that right now because I feel like, yes, if the Blues can get it together, I think with this team, we saw what happened at the end of last season, and it was a lot of the same core players. Now, you did lose some veterans for sure, and I think that's maybe what we're seeing is you lost some of those guys that were great in the locker room, just that veteran presence, but you still got that core. So what if just a couple guys could get hot? What if just a couple guys somehow, for whatever reason, had the hot stick, had a couple of good games, and could pull some of their teammates or line mates along with them? I do think that would happen. I think once Buchnevich, for instance, can crack through, he's had some chances. He hit the crossbar that last game from a shot by Logan Mailloux, by the way, who's also trying to make his way in this league. I think if you can get a guy like Buchnevich to get back on board, you're going to see some points pile up for the Blues. You're going to see some wins, but it's really tough to win when your top 6 are struggling. Amy Markscourse, co-host of Chris and Amy middays here on KMOX, also co-hosting Offside Hockey alongside of Chris Kerber on Matrix Midwest, airs Wednesday nights. You can always catch the replay as well. Amy, thank you so much for the time. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll talk again next week. Thanks, Matt. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, too. Awesome. Appreciate it. That's Amy Markscourse, Hockey Amy, joining us here on the show. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 1. Hour number 2, Corey Miller is going to join us. We'll also hear some of what Chaim Bloom had to say earlier today. That's all coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
I hear from sellers all the time that they fear they have missed out on the selling market. They are so relieved to learn September, October, and November are strong selling months. With low inventory and hopefully lower interest rates, this fall will be a hot one for real estate. I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty. You may have heard me say, why pay more than 4 for years? Now it's why pay more than 2, saving you even more money. Call me 314-441-4444. And remember, why pay more than 2?
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri, Kansas, and Nevada. Nevada.
This is Congressman Bob Onder. For 43 days, the left kept the government closed, holding the American people hostage and demanding radical policy changes, including free health care for illegal immigrants. However, thanks to strong Republican leadership, the Senate voted to reopen the government and put America first. I'm thrilled to return to Washington so I can continue to vote to help Missourians, to secure our nation's borders, and to cut wasteful spending. Visit onder.house.gov to find the office closest to you.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
This holiday season, experience the power, the intensity, the legendary sound of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Coming to Enterprise Center for 2 shows, December 23rd at 3 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. A portion of the proceeds from the 3 p.m. show benefits Siteman Kids at St. Louis Children's Hospital. Trans-Siberian Orchestra, 2 shows, Enterprise Center, December 23rd. For more information, KMOX.com/events.
Thank you, St. Louis, for making Genesis of St. Charles the #1 Genesis dealer in Missouri for 2025. We know your time is valuable. That's why every purchase comes with 3 years of complimentary Genesis service valet. Unlock your e-price and save. That means complimentary vehicle pickup and delivery, plus a loaner vehicle at no additional cost. Or want something new? We'll bring the test drive to you. Visit genesisofstcharles.com during the Genesis Signature Event. Based on GMA sales records for 2024. See dealer for details.
Glover here for my friends at Cantor Injury Law. Cantor is local, and we're here doing the work every day. We're right here in St. Louis, and we're ready to fight for you. CantorInjuryLaw.com or call 314-628-9999.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be solely based on advertising.
An AI search engine will have one of the most extensive photograph collections at its disposal. Getty Images announced a deal with San Francisco AI search firm Perplexity, giving Perplexity search and discovery tools access to Getty's library of around 150 million photographs, with Perplexity adding image credits and links to the source. Perplexity says it has more than 30 million monthly users. I'm Jason Brooks.
Are you tired of online threats? Then get an antivirus. It's the only online protection you will ever need.
Disclaimer, an antivirus is just half protection online. It will not protect you from snoopers or encrypt your online traffic. So this Black Friday, get better online protection with NordVPN. NordVPN will encrypt your traffic, protect you from malware and phishing, and stop annoying ads. Get the NordVPN Black Friday deal with 73% off and enjoy 3 extra months.
At LendSeek, we know running a business takes heart, hustle, and sometimes a little help. That's why we stand with you with our exclusive AI lending platform, connecting you to over 100 funders. If you've been in business for at least 2 years with a minimum annual revenue of $500,000, you can get up to $1 million in funding in as fast as 24 hours. No collateral, no prepayment penalties, no red tape. Apply today with no cost or obligation at lendseek.com. That's LENDSEEK.com.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. Ever wonder why Big Wireless wants you on an unlimited plan? They probably want you to cover the cost of those 20-somethings using all that data every month. But most people 50 and up like me only use 12 gigs or less. Don't get bamboozled by Big Wireless. Switch to Consumer Cellular. Our plans start at just $20, and we use the same towers as the big guys. Join the millions who choose something better, because if you're not using all that data, you're probably getting used.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com/fax or a store near you. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
For all station contest rules, go to KMOX.com/rules. Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Wrapping up hour number 1 of the program, it is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. Look, I've talked a lot about it recently, and we got a comment earlier that came in saying that the ceiling talk is old. And that's when talk about the Cardinals and what they might get back and how it is all about looking at players and their ceilings and trying to hit on as many of those as possible. If that talk is old, well, that's the pathway here. That's the pathway, because the Cardinals are not going to go right now acquire in free agency any big time, impactful, all-star caliber, top of the roster type players. And long-term, they want to have those top-of-the-roster guys. You do that by identifying the skill sets to be an impactful player, and you go get as many of those guys as you possibly can and hope some of them develop. So if you're sick of hearing about a guy's ceiling, I don't know what to tell you, because that's going to be something that we are going to continue to talk about moving forward. Back with more in a moment here on KMOX.
There is nothing like watching Thanksgiving football, but for football fans in Missouri, this year FanDuel is about to make it even better. With points giving, all FanDuel customers in Missouri get $1 in bonus bets for every point scored in the Chiefs-Cowboys game. So, for example, if the final score is 24-21, you'd get $45 in bonus bets. Doesn't matter if you've already signed up for FanDuel or if you've been waiting for the right moment to join. Just head to FanDuel.com/Missouri to get in on the action in Missouri. That's FanDuel.com/Missouri to score bonus bets for every point in the Chiefs-Cowboys game. Enjoy a football feast with points giving on FanDuel, coming soon to Missouri. 21 and over and present in Missouri. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com.
My name is Whitney Allen. I am a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought in a million years we'd have to use life insurance. The unexpected happened. With Ethos, it is so fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage through Ethos.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Are you like everybody else in the world who has no idea what to get everyone for the holidays? Well, you're in luck. We got you. Hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Because with hands-free Skechers slip-ins, you just step into them and they're on. There's no bending down, no touching, no fuss. Plus, Skechers slip-ins come in everyone's favorite styles and colors. And you can get slip-ins everywhere stylish footwear is sold, including a Skechers store. Or if you're too busy to shop in person, just get them online at Skechers.com, Amazon, and more.
Hey there, it's Steven, the owner of the Photo Pros, formerly Creve Court Camera. Each day, people bring us their family history, single photos in need of restoration, piles of photos wanting them to be scanned, boxes of slides, albums, videotapes, DVDs, and even old home movies. We take them and digitize them, or what we call scan them at high resolution, and place them on a USB thumb drive. Plus, many people want additional copies for the rest of the family. Yes, we'll make you copies. Here's the best part. You don't have to send them out of St. Louis and have a chance of losing them. If needed, we can fix or restore the entire image or images. We are slightly higher priced than the internet, but our quality is top notch. Remember the Photo Pros, formerly Creve Court Camera. Come visit Mark, Derek, Daryl, Tony, and me, Steven, at our store. You can reach us at 314-567-3456 or Google the Photo Pros or even Creve Court Camera.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-269-3454. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-269-3454 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-269-3454 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-269-3454.
News, talk, cards. KMOX AM St. Louis. KMOX FM Hazelwood. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Steel.
I'm Stacey Lynn. President Trump says he's hopeful for a possible end to the war in Ukraine soon. And Ukrainian President Zelensky agrees.
I'm ready to meet with President Trump. And there are sensitive points to discuss. We have them still. And we think that the presence of European leaders could be helpful.
CBS's Erica Brown reports officials are fine-tuning the deal.
President Trump said that his original 28-point plan had been fine-tuned. That, of course, comes after it received some criticism from European officials and even some lawmakers here in Washington, pushing back on some of the concessions that Ukraine would be forced to make, including cutting the size of its military and abandoning efforts to join NATO.
President Trump says Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will meet with Russian President Putin in Moscow next week. If you're heading out for the holiday, you need to fill up your car.
Most of this week's estimated 82 million travelers are expected to drive.
We're at $3.05 per gallon as a national average.
AAA spokesman Robert Sinclair Jr. calls $3 the pain threshold. That is, the point where people start considering alternatives to driving. But the Auto Club's Thanksgiving survey shows that is not expected to be a problem this year,
with 90% of those who are taking a Thanksgiving trip driving to their destination.
Peter King, CBS News.
The search for a missing high school football coach in Virginia has ramped up, and Travis Turner is now facing child pornography charges. CBS's Anna Schechter is following the case.
Local police have deployed drones and canines, but 5 days into their search, they say their top priority is locating Turner alive and safe.
Turner spent more than a decade coaching at Union High School in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. In St. Paul, Minnesota, protesters clash with federal immigration agents carrying out raids in a neighborhood. The FBI is investigating 6 Democratic members of Congress whom President Trump accused of seditious behavior after the group appeared in a video last week that called on service members and members of the intelligence community to refuse illegal orders. CBS's Nicole Skenga.
There is no federal crime called seditious behavior. The phrase has really no legal meaning. The closest federal statute, seditious conspiracy, 18 U.S. Code 2384, requires use of force or a conspiracy to levy war against the United States.
In the video, they explained why they're concerned with possible presidential orders that they believe go way beyond presidential powers. This is CBS News.
Check off the wish list with instant savings and free battery offers on select Steel tools. Shop online at steelusa.com or in-store.
At 7:03, it's a cloudy sky right now, 54 degrees. It feels like 47 downtown at the Arch. The man who helped to create the Zoo Museum District and led St. Louis in the late 70s has passed away. Former Mayor James Conway died today at Mercy Hospital at the age of 93. Before taking to City Hall, Conway served in the state legislature where he was instrumental in the bill that set up the Zoo Museum District and ensured free admission to the zoo. During his time as mayor, his administration oversaw the start of major projects like the redevelopment of Union Station and the St. Louis Center Mall. His son, former Alderman Steve Conway, tells the Post-Dispatch his father was, quote, really strong on historic preservation. The Cardinals make their first major move of the offseason, sending Sonny Gray to Boston.
The team gets back 2 pitchers. Richard Fitz, who has made just 15 Major League appearances but appears slotted into the Cardinals' 2026 rotation, and Brandon Clark, who pitched at the Single-A level this past season. Cardinals President of Baseball Operations Chaim Bloom is happy with the return.
Really excited about both of those players. Fitz has big league experience and has what it takes to pitch in a big league rotation. Clark is still in the minor leagues, still on his way up and comer with a lot of promise.
Fitz has allowed 3 or fewer earned runs in 11 of his 14 Major League starts. Clark slots in as the number 7 prospect in the Cardinals organization, according to MLB Pipeline. Matt Pauley, KMOX Sports.
The decision on whether or not to remove Sheriff Alfred Montgomery from office now rests with Judge Stephen Omer after the trial wrapped up today with closing arguments. The attorneys general focused on tying together the testimony and evidence, including video footage, showing Montgomery's actions justify his removal from office. Their counts for his removal include retaliating against former employees, having a deputy transport his kids to and from school in a department vehicle, and having the deputy commissioner of the jail detained. The defense, focused on dismantling that case, does not believe that the AG reached the bar for removal. Sheriff's Attorney David Mason.
I think that he was left with really trying to exaggerate some things to try to raise them to the level. of being something sufficient for Toronto. And I think that argument largely failed.
Omer provided no timeline for a decision. He only needs to side with the Attorney General on one of the 6 counts against Montgomery for him to be removed from office. 2 separate projects at the Lake of the Ozarks for a casino are still alive.
According to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, developer Jeff Tegetthoff's firm has contributed $750,000 to back a new ballot initiative that seeks to amend the state constitution. The private $400 million project needs more than 170,000 signatures from voters in 6 districts to be placed on the statewide ballot. At the same time, the Osage Nation tribe received an endorsement from Lake of the Ozarks officials for their long-running separate plan to build a $60 million casino. The tribe needs federal approval and a sign-off from Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe. Stuart McMillan, KMOX News.
The forecast from Dave Murray for tonight. The clouds stick around. It's going to be windy. Wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour or over. Late tonight, low 35 degrees. For tomorrow, sunshine, but still windy. High 46. Tomorrow night, 29. Thanksgiving Thursday, 42 with sun. Thanksgiving night, 25 degrees. Friday, 41. Saturday, Sunday, rain and some snow with a high of 39. Right now, downtown at the Arch, we've got some clouds. It's 54. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Back at it as we roll into hour number 2 of the program. We've got a lot coming up this hour, including hearing much of what Chaim Bloom had to say in his press conference today via Zoom, talking about the trade that was made. Sonny Gray going to Boston, a couple pitchers coming back. Right now, very happy to welcome on to the show. He is a reporter and anchor for Channel 5 KSDK. He's our good friend, Corey Miller, joins us right now. Corey, I always appreciate you taking time with us. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news today with the trade? Sonny Gray goes to Boston, and a couple young pitchers, one of whom will likely slot into the big league rotation this upcoming season, returning to St. Louis.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's too surprised just in general that it happened. I think that it came so soon is a little bit surprising and perhaps signals just how aggressive Chaim Bloom is going to be this offseason, unloading some guys who do have some value around the league. With anything like pitchers you get, you'll see how it works out. One of them's got some experience. The other, at least at one point, I think was a pretty highly touted prospect. Lefty throws pretty hard. So you got to take a gamble, getting some younger guys, and who knows if it's going to work out. But on a team that doesn't really look like it's going to compete very much next year, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to have Sonny Gray on the roster. So the tear down begins, I guess.
Yeah, Chaim talked about today about the art form that is figuring out when to actually pull off trades. And if you do it early, well, then maybe there's a lot of teams that are interested in a certain position group. If you do it late, where a bunch of guys come off the board, maybe you get some desperation. He went early on this one. He also talked about the fact that for Sonny's sake, just allowing him to know where he was going to be and not be stressing out right at the beginning of spring training. Everything played into it as well. But I think your point is right, Corey, that the moment a trade becomes something that he's content and happy with, it feels like he's likely to pull the trigger.
I think he also might have said today it's not really about, he doesn't view it as patience. He views it as like being aggressive to start this process and what guys are going to be a part of this process. And like we've been talking about, if it's going to be, a couple years or two before you get where you want to go, does it make sense to have some of these high-priced veterans on your team? Well, no, it doesn't. So then let's get to going right away. This is just the first domino, and them including, the amount of money they did in this deal, I guess $20 million I saw reported, maybe bodes well to think they could definitely move Arenado this offseason and include some money there, which maybe was a hang-up before. But, just the start.
Yeah, that's kind of the cost of doing business in today's Major League Baseball, where when all of a sudden contracts don't look great anymore, you have to eat them to have players go away. And again, you make a good point because we're waiting to see what's going to happen with Nolan Arenado. And if them eating $20 million of Sonny Gray's salary is an indication of things to come, you would think it might be easier to get an Arenado deal done.
It just has to at this point. I don't. Whatever they have to do, he can't be on the team next year at this point. It's just such a crux of just. It doesn't make sense for him to be here anymore. He said all the right things, of course. everybody's gone about it the right way. But just from a logical perspective, it does not make any sense for Nolan Arenado to be a Cardinal next year. And, he's even come around to the fact that he'll have to open his mind maybe a little bit and look at other teams that might be in the mix for him, even though if they weren't his first, second, or third option. But, I just don't see a world where he's on the roster next year, whatever they have to do.
Yeah, look, Sonny Gray's gone, and Sonny Gray was your best pitcher in the rotation. And I'm not trying to put a lipstick on a pig here, because the rotation is not as good right now as it was this morning. At the same time, a lot of people have said, isn't this a team that can still contend for a playoff spot? And I think you can squint and still fight. If Richard Fitz comes in and does a really nice job and takes a step forward, if you get a little bit more offensively from some guys out there, if they make some key moves and get the most out of things, just because I'm not trying to sell this as this team is going to be really good next year. It's not a rebuild that they're going through. But at the same time, it feels like there's at least a scenario where it kind of plays out the way it did this year, where you're at least in playoff contention for most of the year.
Well, I think this is just the first of a lot of things that are going to happen. And I don't think all of them are going to be, tearing things down to the studs. I think if they see a situation where they can acquire via trade or to sign somebody who's established at least a little bit and projects to the future, most importantly, but could be good right now, yeah, certainly, you plug a couple holes and you're at least probably as good as you were this last year. And, the toughest thing I've just been saying about all this, just as a kind of a wide scoping issue, is we've been kind of waiting around the last couple of years for this to turn around. It hasn't. And now it feels like you've reached another low point where you're going to go even lower, even though fans have already kind of suffered through this for a couple of years. So, what do you pitch to people to come out? So I think they are going to find, some way to pitch that. And I think Heim's going to make some trades and moves, not just focused on long down the future, but you got to field a competitive team at least somewhat in St. Louis.
Before we get you out of here, I want to talk Mizzou for just a moment. Your colleague, Frank Cusimano, tweeted out a couple hours ago that he was told by people close to the situation that the board of curators and Coach Eli Drinkwitz are getting close to finalizing the deal. It could come by the end of the week. There is a curators meeting that has been scheduled for tomorrow. That is notable. Generally, you don't have a meeting like that happening the day before Thanksgiving. Do you feel like this is moving towards the direction of Drinkwitz getting another contract extension and locking in for at least one more year?
Yeah, I think that's just the reality of college football today. If you're not, going out of your way to appease your guy is going to really seriously be looking somewhere else. And who knows, everything online, and Drink somewhat shot it down, maybe not as forcefully as folks would like to hear from him. And, the recent weeks, it's all about leverage and whatnot. Of how hard other programs were after him. Who really knows? But you've got a guy who can recruit, who can manage the portal beautifully, and can command the NIL, powers that Mizzou has at the moment very well to compete in the SEC. To think you could do better than that and start all over is pretty foolish. So I think locking Drink up with what he needs is certainly the best course of action. And hopefully one of these years you figure it out and you're able to knock off a couple of teams that you weren't supposed to beat. And that just seems to be the reality of the situation.
Previously, if you go get a contract extension, that maybe locks you in for a couple, 2-3 years. But it feels like in today's world of college football, we could be having the exact same conversation, and the board of curators could be having the exact same meeting 1 year from now. All these contract extensions seemingly do is lock in a coach for one more single year.
Oh yeah, put as many years on there as you want. It doesn't matter if they want to get rid of you and they've got the money, they'll get rid of you to get somebody else, or you're going to leave and go somewhere else and bail them out. So yeah, it's all just give them what they want and we'll figure it out later. I think is kind of the operation.
Do you think it's a valid criticism of him of the program's lack of ability to knock off top 25 teams?
Yeah, I think it's fair. The record is what it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, almost every game he's supposed to win, he's won. And at Mizzou, in the SEC, the best conference in the country, that's nothing to scoff at. you obviously wish you could take it to some of these bigger teams every year. It just hasn't worked out. But you look at everything surrounding the program, like I mentioned, with certainly the transfer portal and high school recruiting, and he's getting the horses. Just got to figure out how to make those horses win the big game. And I think you keep taking your shots with him.
A couple years ago, if the college football playoff would have been expanded where it is now, they would have been a college football playoff team. If they just stay on this exact same track record that they've had for the last few years, where your basement is being an 8-win team, which is what they're likely going to be this year, maybe 9 wins with a bowl game, and the ceiling is getting into those double-digit wins and being right there in college football playoff contention, is that enough for you to feel comfortable with sticking with a guy year after year after year, or can Mizzou fans ask for more than that?
That's a fair question, and I'm an alum. I got a diploma hanging up here in my house, so I try to not be totally delusional about it. And every once in a while, I'm like, why can't Mizzou be, competing at the highest level? And then you kind of look at the big picture, and to be a team within, striking distance of the college football playoff is not a bad place to be. It's a place that, in the mid 2010s, if there was a college football playoff and you would have told me Mizzou was in striking distance under Barry Odom, I would have thought that was the greatest thing I'd ever heard. So it's a little bit about perspective. And like I said, you just got to come together one of these years. And at some point, there'll be a hard discussion, possibly, if it just keeps coming up short and, he gets the James Franklin kind of shade on him that folks up at Penn State thought about him. I don't think we're there yet, though. So I think Mizzou fans should still like the track that Eli's got him on.
He is Corey Miller. You see him on Channel 5 KSDK. He is a sports reporter and sports anchor. You follow him on Twitter at Corey_Miller5. Corey, thanks for the time. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll catch up again down the line.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Awesome. Very good. That's Corey Miller joining us on the program, and we appreciate him spending a few moments with us today and getting his thoughts on the Cardinals' move today and also on Mizzou. And it's looking, again, there's a board of curators meeting tomorrow. We do the thing with the college. The world goes crazy when it comes to following along with the college football coaching carousel. You've got all the message board people. You got the people getting on the aviation websites and tracking planes from one city to another. And more often than not, it's nothing. It's just a whole bunch of nothing. I'm not trying to add fuel to a fire of what could potentially be nothing, but I think the board of curators calling a meeting the day before Thanksgiving, that's odd. That's weird. It's the day before Thanksgiving. It's when holidays are getting underway and when people are not working and the board of curators are calling a meeting. So I feel like there is a good, and I have no inside information on this. Again, I mentioned the Frank Cusimano tweet where he mentioned the fact that maybe a deal could be done by the end of the week. I don't know. But to me, that's not nothing that the board of curators are getting together on the day before Thanksgiving. And we'll see how that all ends up playing out. We'll take a break right now, and when we return, we'll jump back into thoughts on the Sonny Gray trade. Again, if you've got anything that you want to get in, we'll have a little bit of time for some comments. You can text in at 314-436-7900. Have some video comments that have come in as well. We'll try to get to some of those coming up in just a moment as well. Don't go anywhere. It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX.
Overhead Door Company of St. Louis, the genuine, the original, present 100 years of KMOX.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
There, when St. Louis mourned.
My father, Jack Buck, passed away tonight.
We didn't just lose a great broadcaster, we lost a great person and a friend to the entire sports world.
Busch Stadium was the same sea of red the Hall of Fame broadcaster witnessed season after season as family, friends, and longtime listeners gathered to celebrate a great life.
We cannot begin to tell you all how much your thoughts, your prayers, your cards, your comments on KMOX, what you've done out by his statue here at Busch Stadium, we cannot begin to tell you how much that means.
There for every headline, every heartbreak, every heartbeat. KMOX, the voice of St. Louis. Brought to you by St. Louis Public Library, St. Louis's original search engine.
It's the biggest savings event of the year. Menards, 11% rebate ends Thanksgiving Day. Save big money on everything you need for any project. We've got something for everyone. Homeowners, contractors, DIYers, the kids, and even grandma. Hurry, Menards 11% rebate ends Thanksgiving Day.
Save big money at Menards.
11% mail-in rebate is a merchandise credit check. Good on future in-store purchases. See menards.com for details.
If you or anyone you care about is facing a family legal matter, call Cordell & Cordell today at 1-855-GET-LEGAL.
There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. Divorce touches all areas of your life: your home, savings, retirement, and of course, kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce, you need a partner you can count on.
If you or anyone you care about is facing divorce, contact Cordell & Cordell today. With over 100,000 clients served, we understand the challenges you're facing on a personal level. Call Cordell & Cordell today at 1-855-GET-LEGAL. That's 1-855-GET-LEGAL. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-323-8922. 800-323-8922. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-323-8922.
Retirement shouldn't feel like balancing a checkbook while blindfolded. I'm Gary Goldberg, and my team helps you see the big picture so you can retire younger, richer, and with less anxiety. Because guessing is not a strategy. Tune in to Wealth and Wisdom with Gary Goldberg Saturday mornings at 7 here on KMOX.
For residential and commercial heating repairs, service, maintenance, or installation, contact Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Installation. With over 50 years of HVAC service, get in your comfort zone this winter. Visit aircomfortservice.com. That's aircomfortservice.com.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Back at as we take you till 8 o'clock this evening on a Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Coming up in less than 10 minutes, we are going to go back through much of what was said today by Cardinals President of Baseball Operations, Chaim Bloom, after the announcement of the Sonny Gray trade. Chaim spent some time on a Zoom call with members of the media, and we're going to play back much of those, and we'll kind of put some context to what was said as well. So that's going to be coming up in just a few minutes. Programming note for you, we are on tomorrow, Thanksgiving Eve, tomorrow evening. We will be doing a full show. Just with everything happening today, where it's been a lot of reacting to the trade and just going through all the details and the information of it. Haven't had quite as much time as I would have liked to be able to welcome in your phone calls and your messages and all that sort of stuff, because I want to get to this. I want to listen back to what some of Chaim had to say coming up in our next segment. So hopefully you'll be with me tomorrow, and I'll be able to spend a little bit more time than we did today. Got a few messages I want to get through right now. 636 text in and says, I know the Cardinals are rebuilding, but could the Cardinals still sneak into the playoffs next season? I think the answer to that question is yes, but I don't want to answer the question that way as if that's the goal of next season. They could have snuck into the playoffs this year, right? It would not have taken much to go differently for them to be in a different spot. If they would have cut the cord on Eric Fetty a little bit earlier, if there's a handful of losses that you really kind of just were not games that should have been wins, all of a sudden this team is in a different spot. Maybe they're not selling at the deadline. Like they didn't. It isn't that they had to be a better team this year. It's just that some things would have had to go differently. And is there a scenario? Because I think the team is going to be basically the same level of talent next year. Now, they're not going to have a Sonny Gray. I get that. Their top end pitcher, their highest end pitcher, will likely be less than what they had this year. But there's also going to be some areas where guys do take steps forward. Is there a scenario where this club sneaks into the playoffs this upcoming season? Sure. But is there a scenario where they win a division? Is there a scenario where they go on a deep playoff run? Is there a scenario where they win a World Series? No, there's not. And what they have spoken very openly about, which I think is a really good thing that they're saying, is it's not this is a team that's no longer, the job isn't to be in the middle anymore. The job is to go position themselves where they can win championships, where they can be division champions, where they can be league champions, and the good Lord willing, they can be world champions at some point in the future as well. And that's the path that they're trying to get themselves on. So I've always told you, and I'm not backtracking out of this. I've always told you that there's always value in being a playoff club, and there's always value in contending for the playoffs. And I stand by that. If something happens this upcoming season where things play out just a little bit differently and they win a higher percentage of those games that they should win, if some guys take a step forward, if some of these things happen, and a scenario like what happened this year with the Mets where they just completely fell off, and it's the Cardinals and not the Cincinnati Reds who take advantage of that moment, if that plays out, that's great. And that's not out of the realm of possibility, but that doesn't change what this team is trying to do. And they're not trying to be a team that can sneak into the playoffs. They're trying to be a team that can win championships. And call me a honk, call me a homer, call me whatever you want to call me. I believe in Chaim Bloom. I believe that he's making the right decisions. And I believe in bringing in as much young talent as possible, hoping that a lot of it starts to hit and you're able to raise your base level of talent on the major league roster, and that eventually turns into an opportunity to be competing again at the highest level. We will hear from Chaim Bloom. He spoke with the media earlier today. Some of what he had to say, that's coming up in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Hey, Cardinal Cowboy here. Who would have thought a car crash would have led to charities, TV shows, and cheering with the best fans in the world? I'm thankful for every day. And so are my friends at Renner Garage Door. They've been turning garage doors from zero to hero since 1966. With help from trusted brands like Delden, Amar, and LiftMaster, honest family-style service you can count on. So giddy up and get your free repair or replacement quote today. Giddy up!
RENNER, RENNER.
At Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, every moment with our patients is a gift. This holiday season, you can be the reason children have hope as they fight serious illness and reach milestones once thought impossible. Your gift provides life-saving care to those who need it most. Please donate today at treeofhope.org and be the reason a child has hope for tomorrow.
This is Congressman Bob Onder. For 43 days, the left kept the government closed, holding the American people hostage and demanding radical policy changes, including free health care for illegal immigrants. However, thanks to strong Republican leadership, the Senate voted to reopen the government and put America first. I'm thrilled to return to Washington so I can continue to vote to help Missourians, to secure our nation's borders, and to cut wasteful spending. Visit onder.house.gov to find the office closest to you.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Hey, just check the mail. We've been invited to a seminar and dinner is free.
It's gonna be chicken, and it'll taste like Play-Doh.
Don't be fooled. All seminars are not the same. For example, Steve All, an investment advisor representative and founder of the All Financial Group, is hosting a taxes and retirement seminar at his office in Chesterfield on December 10th. Come meet Steve's newest advisor, Tracy Richardson, as she discusses the big beautiful bill, taxes on your Social Security, and more. Tracy will not only cover the hurdles you can face in retirement, but ways to keep more money in your pocket and less in Uncle Sam's. This is a complimentary event. event, but seating is limited, so reserve your seat today. Call 636-230-8824 or online at yourmoneymattersstl.com.
You know, hon, I've always been interested in us buying a timeshare.
I'd rather eat Play-Doh.
Investment advisory products and services made available through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC IPW, a registered investment advisor. Neither the firm nor its agents or representatives may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any purchasing decisions.
You've got your whole life ahead of you, so choose a Medicare plan you can count on. And that's what you get with a Medicare Advantage plan from United Healthcare. With more than 45 years' experience serving its members, United Healthcare has plans with low monthly premiums that fit your life today and as your needs change tomorrow. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends December 7th, so go to uhc.com/Medicare today. United Healthcare Medicare plans. It's Medicare coverage Missouri can count on.
What's up, Missouri? Tony Gonzalez here. I've spent a lot of Sundays right here playing in front of the best fans in football. And now it's almost your turn to get in the game because DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to the Show Me State on December 1st. Soon you'll get fast payouts when you win, a safe and secure app that's easy to use, and promos that keep the action going all season long. It's America's top-rated sportsbook app. New customers can sign up right now and score $300 in bonus bets on launch day, December 1st.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code KMOX. New Missouri customers, sign up today and score $300 in bonus bets once we're live. That's code KMOX. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable and expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. We are taking you until 8 o'clock this evening. We've obviously been spending most of our time today talking through the big move today as the Cardinals trade away pitcher Sonny Gray. They get back left-hand pitcher Richard Fitz. He was in the big leagues this past season, but a guy who's still relatively young. Cardinals have some club control on him. And then left-hand pitcher Brandon Clark, a young prospect. According to MLB Pipeline, he slots in as the number 7 prospect in the Cardinals organization coming over from the Red Sox. We did hear from Cardinals President of Baseball Operations Chaim Bloom earlier today. If you missed any of it, I wanted to play back much of what he did have to say. And before we get to the return, let's start with his comments on Sonny Gray, who was a big part of this team, obviously the number 1 pitcher, the top of the rotation guy for the Cardinals each of the last 2 years. And Bloom made it very clear that he felt like that Sonny was a very good Cardinal.
Just express some appreciation for Sonny and what he did in our uniform. Getting to know him these past couple years has been a pleasure. And obviously watching him pitch is, you all and all of our fans have also a pleasure, but what he did on the field, who he is off the field, his dedication to his craft. There's not that many guys that have been around who are as much fun to talk pitching with as Sonny is, and what he did for the people around him, how much he cares about this game, and how seriously he took the commitment that he made to this organization, something that we all appreciate and wish him well in Boston.
I mentioned the return that they are getting in a young guy in Brandon Clark, again, top 10 prospect now in the Cardinals organization. And then Richard Fitz, who would seemingly slot in to the major league rotation right away after he appeared in 11 big league games this past year, making 10 starts. And Bloom, as he went on to talk about things, said he's very happy with the return that they got.
Really excited about both of those players. Fitz has big league experience and has what it takes to pitch in a big league rotation. Clark is still in the minor leagues, still on his way up. An up-and-comer with a lot of promise.
Now, something that's been spoken about a lot recently is where the organization is going and how they are going to get there, and they are more than willing to maybe take a step back in the short term to have a bigger step forward in the long term, and Bloom said that this type of trade represents what the organization is trying to do.
To me, it's exactly consistent with everything that I've been talking about for the past couple months. I laid this out when I spoke to you guys for the first time in late September. We have somewhere we need to go. We're not there now. And the way to get there is through building on our core of talent and having promising young talent that can be with us for many years and that have their best ahead of them, we hope. And so, we talked about it that sometimes the long term might conflict with the short term. Sonny's a really talented pitcher. There's no doubt about that. But I said it then, I'm going to say it again. When those two things run in opposite directions, we're going to choose the long term because that's where this organization needs to be. We're trying to get back to a certain place and stay there. And history has shown that the way the Cardinals always do that is with our young, talented core. So we're trying to build on that core and excited about these two guys and what they're going to mean for us as part of that.
And Bloom goes on to say that moves like these get the club closer to where he feels like they need to be.
Nobody who gets in this game has any guarantees. I think the more fully we commit to what we need to do, the better it will go and the quicker we will get there. I don't view this as something that's about patience. I view it as something that we have to attack with purpose, we have to attack it with urgency, and we have to do that every day. There are elements of our strategy that just make sense for those to be long term, but that doesn't mean we're going to be complacent, and that doesn't mean we're going to sit on our hands. We're going to do things every day, whether they're things behind the curtain that people can't see to try to get us there. And sometimes, like today, we do something that is very visible, but we are doing it because we think it's going to get us where we need to go as quickly and as effectively as possible and put us in position to stay there.
One of the interesting things about this trade is you get somebody who can slot onto the major league roster right away, but is also, as I mentioned, still a relatively young guy and someone you have club control on for a number of years. And then they also get somebody who was pitching in single A this past year. So Bloom really liked the fact that in this trade, they were able to get a now piece that is controllable and also a future piece as well.
We do end up getting in this trade someone who we feel is equipped to compete for a big league rotation spot right away, and who we also have a long runway with going forward. And obviously in Clark, you get somebody who's pure arm talents up there with just about anybody that's pitching in the minor leagues right now. Obviously, it's a long way from that to establishing himself in the big leagues, but the upside is incredible there, and we're hopeful we can help him reach it. We do, when it comes to putting together our big league club, as you know, we want to make sure we have rotation depth. And so it's very nice to get talent back that fits that. But we also would never want to walk by talent that, even though it's a little further away, has a chance to really impact us in the long term. And it's nice that we were able to get some of both in this deal.
There is so much focus on the future, and rightfully so. When you trade away your top starter, your number one starter, it feels like you're giving something away at the major league level for right now. But Bloom did say they're not giving anything, they're not conceding anything, and while the deal might be focused on the future, they're hopeful it can help the current club as well.
We are not going to concede anything, obviously. Feel that we've gotten some really talented players back and look forward to adding more talent to the club, and we will do that as the winter goes on. But we also need to follow our plan, and like I said, the more we're committed to that, the more we follow it, the better this will go, and the quicker the good things that we're looking to happen will happen. So, it's too early to know what other possibilities could be. I mean, you never really know until you start getting into things. We are constantly talking to every club, understanding interest in our players, hunting players that we have interest in, whether they're younger players, whether they're players in the middle of their career or older players, and obviously also talking to free agents at the same time. So I don't know exactly what those possibilities will look like, or whether other things will be possible when it comes to the trade front. It obviously takes multiple partners, but we're going to keep talking and keep looking for things that can help get us where we want to go.
I thought this was interesting. We're still early on in the offseason. It seems like the offseason is likely to be a somewhat slow-moving offseason. The market for starting pitching hasn't completely developed, so why make this move now?
There's always a little bit of art to that, right, of figuring out when it's time to pull the trigger. And ultimately, there's some subjectivity around that always. It just became clear coming out of the GM meetings. We had a pretty good idea of where the interest was and what the interest levels were. Felt like this was something that might come to a head early. And especially understanding, look, for everybody's sake, Sonny has a say in this too, right? There's a no trade clause involved. And not only is it harder for us to navigate our offseason the longer that goes on, but there's a human side to this too, where players want to prepare for spring training. And I think it's easier to work through these situations when the player and his family have more runway themselves to figure out where to go. That wasn't something Sonny ever directly expressed, but just speaking generally about, some of the things that go into this. But really most is just assessing the market, assessing the interest and what we might be able to get back, and then saying, look, is this something that ultimately is good for us? Like I talked about earlier, does it push us towards our goals? Does it help us get where we want to eventually go? And, we felt this was a yes. And so then it's a question of, okay, is there value to waiting? Obviously, we can't play out the alternate universe where we did. But in general, I think you got to trust your instincts on this. That's something you learn over time. And felt like this was a good deal for us, and so we made it.
It's also a move that requires the Cardinals to take on a fair amount of salary. They're going to pick up about $20 million to get this deal done. And Bloom said that it's kind of part of the deal. And there's two ways to look at it. Sometimes you take on salary because that's what it's going to take to get a deal done. Sometimes you take on salary because that's going to allow you to maximize the return that you get.
We're fortunate that we have the backing of ownership to be able to do that if it is the best deal for us. You'd obviously always rather not have to put cash in a deal, but if that's what's possible with the other side and that nets you the best return, then it's been great to have ownership's backing to be able to do that. And there's always a sliding scale with these things, and you assess different possibilities as you look at the market. You obviously have to factor it in because it does eat into the resources you have available to build the club in the here and now. But we thought this was the best deal available to us, and that's why we did it.
So all of a sudden, the Cardinals' rotation looks incredibly young. Really, the only two guys that you feel like are guaranteed spots going into next year are Michael McGreevy and Matthew Liberatore. Bloom said they still would like to have veterans on this team and veterans in the rotation.
We do see value regardless of whether we're building for the long haul. We still do see value in what veterans can contribute in the short term, and that's always something that you have to weigh. And sometimes those short-term effects, those short-term contributions have long-term effects. That the mentorship that veterans can provide sometimes helps young players establish themselves and be able to grow and move forward. So that is definitely something we are mindful of, something we will be mindful of as we do build this club. And I do expect us to add to this club too as the winter goes on. It's obviously still early in the offseason, but we will be able to do that.
You lose Gray, you lose your top starter. Is there a desire? Does the team right now feel a need to go out and get somebody who can slot in as their new number one starter?
Definitely something we've discussed a lot as the action on Sonny picked up, and it looked like there might be some deal possibilities that made sense for us to do. We like the upside of the guys we have, and my hope is that as the winter goes on, we will be able to add more players that have a chance to pitch in rotation for a while. Certainly without Sonny, we lose that veteran anchor. I mean, he's one of the better pitchers in the game. He's done a lot of things. He's pitched a lot of places. He's been on all-star teams. He's done a lot of things, obviously, that a lot of the guys that we have, that's all still in front of them, and that's really valuable. So certainly we will also explore veterans that could come in here and help stabilize us, not to put them in the way of any of our youth, but to make sure that we have the right insulation up and down that rotation. We want to create some competition. We want to make sure that we have options and that we allow our young guys to flourish while also making sure that that next wave that we hope is coming doesn't get pressed into service before it's their time. We want to make sure that they're ready for the highest level of baseball before we throw them in the fire. And so we will look to add to our rotation, whether it's more youth or whether it's a veteran as the winter goes on.
And Bloom also talked through a little bit kind of the push-pull between going out and adding another veteran starting pitcher to be in this rotation, or to look at all these young guys that are going to be there and just kind of let them battle it out. 4, 5, 6 guys battling for 3 spots, and just how they sort of evaluate that, the need for a top guy versus allowing competition to take place in spring training.
We want to create competition with our young players. I don't think that necessarily needs to be to the exclusion of veterans. Like we talked about, there's a lot of value in some guys who've been there, done that, and can show the way. And we've seen that here the last couple of years. Competition's really good. It can bring out the best in people. Not only does it obviously give us more options to win on the field, but I've seen this in places I've been where you have a group of players. I think back to all the competition that was created with some of those young pitchers a decade plus ago with the Rays. And it really pushes people. You can get some good things going culturally when those guys, yeah, they're competing with each other, but they know there's a lot of spots and they're really pushing each other. So it can get to a point where one guy goes out there and does something or figures something out, and then the next guy whose turn it is the next day wants to one up them, and it becomes very healthy. So certainly if we're able to continue to add options to this group, or over time, as some of the guys that we have coming through the minor leagues come up, we hope to create that. I think it'll be great for the group, and I know this organization, obviously, over the years, there's been an incredible starting pitching culture here that hopefully over time, as the talent warrants, we can get back to.
There are some question marks when it comes to Richard Fitz and his health, as he is somebody that has dealt with a couple issues. He did not pitch after August 25th of this past year. Bloom said that they feel very comfortable where Fitz is at from a health standpoint.
Everything that we had heard that was backed up by what we were able to see reviewing their medical information, and actually just spoke to Richard. He is back throwing. He was in Boston until last week and just went back home, and he's back throwing, and we would expect him to have a normal offseason and be ready to compete for a rotation spot in spring training. As for Brandon, obviously he's had some medical history, and most recently those blisters, which are something that some young pitchers, especially with the ability to create some of the shapes that he can create, might suffer from and have to learn to manage. Look, this is his first full pro season. That is something we're going to have to work with him to help manage as he goes forward. I think it's a byproduct of some of the very unique things he's able to do on the mound. So obviously when somebody's at this spot in their journey, there's a lot they have to learn about themselves, and a lot we have to learn about them too as we get to know him. But this is a guy that our pitching team did a lot of homework on as we were discussing this acquisition, and we're going to be there to support him in a lot of different ways, whether it's what he does between the lines, what he does off the field, to make sure he has every chance to reach his potential. But he should be ready to go when spring training comes.
And then I mentioned Brandon Clark and where he's at in terms of the Cardinals' top prospects rankings. MLB Pipeline slots him in as the number 7 prospect now in the Cardinals organization. He can do a lot of things. He is a hard thrower. He's a lefty. He can touch triple digits if you really need him to. And he's somebody that Bloom is very excited to be able to watch develop.
Brandon's a really, really interesting player. A lot of credit to the Red Sox for getting him where they did in the draft, and then doing a good job with him early in his pro career. Like I said, this is a guy who has, in terms of pure talent, in terms of what's coming out of his hand, the extension that he gets, it's up there with anybody that's in the minor leagues. You really could put him on that short list of highest upside, most talented pitchers in the minor leagues. What he needs to demonstrate as he goes through his career, obviously, is health, consistency, command. To create some of those angles and some of the stuff that he creates. There's obviously a lot of moving parts. And I think you could see by the up and down season, obviously not all those things are in place yet, at least from our distant view. We'll obviously get to know more how he feels about it and felt about it when we get to know him and talk to him. So it's really about just putting a comprehensive plan in place on and off the field, both between the lines, in the training room, in the weight room, all the things we've been talking about, honestly, that we're trying to create in our player development system, of having our performance group, our on-field group work together to get players to the best versions of themselves. That's all going to come into play here. It was great to have those groups at the table as we were talking about this. Really excited for this challenge, understanding that he is far away from that ceiling, but if we get him there, he can be elite. And this type of talent is stuff that you really can't teach. And so we're excited to put a plan around him to give him the best chance to reach that ceiling.
A couple other things just to wrap this up with Bloom. One thing that he did make very clear is there's going to be a competition for a number of rotation spots this year. There's no doubt about it. Somebody like Kyle Leahy is very much legitimately in the mix to move into a starting role this year.
We've talked about Kyle's going to stretch out and come into spring training looking to see if that's a fit, see if we can have him have as successful a transition there as Libby had this year. He certainly has a repertoire to do it. I know he wants to do it. So it makes all the sense in the world, did then, does now, to give him a chance to do that. But we're also still, of course, going to look to add.
And then the last thing from Bloom, I found this to be kind of funny because his first major move for the Cardinals involves his former team, the Boston Red Sox, and he admitted it was a little weird to do a deal with his former employer.
There were different conversations with different people in both organizations that led to this outcome. Yeah, look, it was a little strange, obviously, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really impact things. We're trying to, do the best we can for our club, no matter who it's with. If we accomplish our objectives, then that doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter, where I worked last or anything other than what's best for the St. Louis Cardinals. And I know they're trying to accomplish something themselves too. So this is one where we each had some different objectives here that we were looking to accomplish, and we were able to match up.
That's Chaim Bloom, the Cardinals' president of baseball operations, speaking on a media Zoom call earlier today. Again, the Cardinals pull off the trade as they have sent out Sonny Gray, and they get back Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark, a couple pitchers from the Boston Red Sox. We'll take another break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this edition of the program. It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269. Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This holiday season, the Dave Glover Show is excited to partner with Hardee's and Operation Food Search for the Holiday Food Drive. While supplies last, stop by any metro area Hardee's and make a donation of at least $1 to benefit Operation Food Search and receive a limited edition DGS holiday sticker. All donations will benefit Operation Food Search to help children and families facing food insecurities. Get all the details about the campaign or to make an online donation, head to KMOX.com/events.
Get into the spirit of the season with free holiday concerts by the U.S. Air Force Band of Mid-America, December 6th through 12th. Get free tickets and locations at afbandtix.org. That's afbandtix.org.
My name is Whitney Allen. I am a widow. My husband Ryan died. We never thought in a million years we'd have to use life insurance. The unexpected happened. With Ethos, it is so fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage through Ethos.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/radio. That's ethos.com/radio.
Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
It's the biggest savings event of the year. Menards, 11% rebate ends Thanksgiving Day. Save big money on everything you need for any project. We've got something for everyone. Homeowners, contractors, DIYers, the kids, and even grandma. Hurry, Menards 11% rebate ends Thanksgiving Day.
Save big money at Menards.
11% mail-in rebate is a merchandise credit check. Good on future in-store purchases. See menards.com for details.
It's easy to feel apprehensive about getting screened for cancer or to just keep putting it off. But Siteman Cancer Center wants to remind you how important it is, especially after the age of 40, and they also want you to know how easy it is to get it done. GetScreenedNow.com has all the information you need on cancers like prostate, breast, colon, lung cancer. You can also find out your risk of disease by answering just a few simple questions. And then you can find one of the hundreds of screening locations in the area. Even if you're a little farther out, there is probably a place near you. You have heard this before, but catching cancer early dramatically increases the odds of a successful treatment, especially with so many cancers showing up earlier in life. So do not be intimidated. Siteman will make the process as simple as possible. GetScreenedNow.com. Do it for your family and friends who count on you. Do it for yourself. Visit GetScreenedNow.com.
Working full-time but still falling behind? Learn how real estate education can help you build income and get ahead. On your terms, text RADIO to 88007. That's RADIO to 88007. Presented by Lifestyles Unlimited.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Back at it, it's the Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. Just a moment or so to go. We are going to hand things off to our Gas House Gang replay. That's going to be coming up just after the 8 o'clock news. We've spent most of the day today going through the Sonny Gray trade, and we're going to do a lot more of that coming up tomorrow as well. Didn't get the opportunity to maybe take as many phone calls today as I would have liked. I'm very interested to hear what the reaction is to this from more people, so we'll try to spend a little bit more time doing that on tomorrow's show, and we'll also try to dig in a little bit more tomorrow on the players that the Cardinals have gone back, and both Richard Fitz and Brandon Clark. So we'll try to do that coming up tomorrow in our final show before Thanksgiving. But been a fun show today, and it's this is just the beginning in the Heim Bloom era of Cardinals baseball. I think they're going to continue to be very active, and today is a sign that shows that they are likely to continue to make a good number of moves. But that is it. We are out of time for today. We will talk to you again tomorrow for another Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX.
If you or anyone you care about is facing a family legal matter, call Cordell & Cordell today at 1-855-GET-LEGAL.
There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country. With over 30